surrounded by crowds, they received a liberation certificate and photos of their time in captivity. Both sides condemn the other party's conditions of detention.
When I was in Gaza, I lived in constant fear. I was starved and I was tortured, both physically and emotionally. When the war intensified, the terrorists who held me treated me even worse than usual. Terrorists kicked me, spat on me, and held me with no water, no light, and no air to breathe.
Hostage for prisoner swaps should continue in the coming weeks, according to the ceasefire agreement. The battle of optics, however, will continue to rage on.
And that's it for the news here on Around the World. You're watching France 24. Do stay with us. Coming up next is The Observers.
I think that on the Israeli side, there is another consensus, and that is Hamas cannot govern Gaza anymore. We cannot accept it. But the question is, who will replace Hamas? And what will happen to Hamas itself? You cannot deal with all the Hamas members, because as it was said before on your program, Hamas is an ideology. I can hate this ideology, but it is an ideology. And you cannot kill this ideology. You can demand that the leadership of Hamas will not remain there and leave the Gaza Strip so that others can rehabilitate it. There will be no rehabilitation of Gaza. I mean, the Arab countries which are the candidates to their rehabilitation will not come if Hamas is there ruling the place, or if there is such a game that Hamas will not be there in person, but people whom they will nominate, it will not work. So in my view, speaking about the coming decisions about the release of hostages, about the release of the prisoners, and the rehabilitation are very important. The talks are very important, and the decision, which we don't deal with enough, what will happen with Hamas on the day after, is becoming urgent to decide.
Yossi Bellin, we appreciate you giving us the benefit of your thoughts on this. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
Palestinians who've returned to northern Gaza during the ceasefire are struggling to make a life for themselves among the rubble and the ruins. Hani Mahmoud has more from Beit Hanun in northern Gaza.
So we're just making our way out of this. Used to be a school, and on our school already marked with the blue color were hundreds of Palestinians, displaced Palestinians and children here in the past 15 months, but not anymore. We're not seeing the school. We're not seeing the learning facility here. We're seeing pile of ruins, destroyed classrooms, and destroyed courtyards of the hospital where many of the tents been set up on the side here for remaining family members who survived the months of devastation and attacks. And one of the things that caught our attention as we walked around this part of Beit Hanun city is that we did not hear the call for prayer. It's almost the call for prayer for midday prayer, but we did not hear it. And this is because of the destruction of the 15 mosques across the city. The city of Hanun is left without any mosque, without any place of.
Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell. I am doing a live stream on YouTube and on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I'm also setting up X Spaces if you would like to do a call-in. I have to set that up right now, but the live stream is on YouTube and my website today. This is February 16th. I'll also be reposting this for individuals that missed the live show. Please feel free to join X Spaces and ask questions, or ask questions in the chat box pertaining to the stuff that we're covering today. This is supposed to be interactive, so please join. But the ones that are watching right now, thank you very much. Please help support my work by making sure you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. All the links are in the description of this video. please help support my work by donating on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee on the homepage at the very bottom. You can also be a paid member to my Patreon channel. It's through the paid membership and the donations that allow me to do these videos for free. I have thousands of videos for free covering many, many, many topics. So please help support my work. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take a look at the ebooks, take a look at the supplements that I offer, and the 2 courses that I've developed that are in immunology and pulmonology. They're great sources of information. For only $50, you get lots of PDFs, lots of videos, and you get a unique password to look at those videos and download those PDFs as many times as you want. So please help support my work by going to my store and purchasing the products. With that said, let's start with a couple things that I think you should be getting for your household. Everyone needs soap, right? Well, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nanosilver soaps that I offer to help support my work and to help support your health. It's made from structural nanosilver. I have charcoal tea tree. Get a couple bars for your household. I also have it in lemongrass, in lavender, and in peppermint. So I have 4 different varieties. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the very high quality structural nanosilver soaps. Also, I've partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we have developed these deodorant bars. They are dual purpose. You use it as a deodorant, but it also helps to detoxify your body. Very high quality deodorants made from essential oils from the Himalayas. All natural ingredients, no aluminum, no baking soda. You can get it in citrus, or you can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. It's for males and females. Use it as a deodorant, but it will help to detoxify your body. So it's a dual purpose product. Get a couple bars for your household. Use it every day. Detoxify your body. Use a deodorant that is all natural and help support our work. Help support Rainbow Herbals and help support the work that I do. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get these awesome deodorants. All right, now boost your immune system with taking magnesium and zinc. You should be taking magnesium and zinc every day. If you're not feeling well, take 1 in the morning and take 1 in the evening. Make sure you drink it with filtered water to boost up your immune system. But do the double dose if you're not feeling well. If you're feeling fine, take 1 dose a day, take it every day. Make sure you drink it with filtered water, and that will help to boost up your immune system. Another vitamin that you should be taking every day is vitamin C. It helps with your skin, but it also helps with your immune system. This has magnesium in it. So please go to my store, boost up your immune system. It's an antioxidant. It helps with your skin, helps with your immune system. Drink it with filtered water. If you're not feeling well because of the cold season, guess what? Take a double dose. Make sure you drink it with filtered water because it's water soluble. All right. With that, let's play live now with Israeli Netanyahu and the Secretary Rubio talking at the podium here.
My dear friend Marco, it's great to welcome you in Jerusalem with your delegation. It's great to welcome you in Jerusalem as Secretary of State of the United States. I have to say that this visit comes in the wake of a historic visit to Washington. I've said, and I'm going to repeat it again, because it's so true. President Trump is the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. And the visit in Washington reflected that in every way. And your visit here reflects it in every way. Throughout your political career, you've been a great supporter of Israel and a great champion of the U.S.-Israel alliance. I have no doubt that your unwavering support will continue during your tenure as Secretary of State. And I also have no doubt that you will be a voice of clarity and courage on the world stage for the values that we in Israel, you in America hold dear, the values of freedom, for all those who cherish liberty. You're already doing that, and I want to tell you that it's heard loud and clear here and everywhere else. Today, Secretary Rubio and I had a very productive discussion with our staffs on a number of issues. None of them are more important than Iran. Israel and America stand shoulder to shoulder in countering the threat of Iran. We agreed that the Ayatollahs must not have nuclear weapons. And we also agreed that Iran's aggression in the region has to be rolled back. Over the last 16 months, Israel has dealt a mighty blow to Iran's terror axis. Under the strong leadership of President Trump, and with your unflinching support, I have no doubt that we can and will finish the job. We also spoke a great deal about Gaza. I thank Secretary Rubio for President Trump's assistance in helping us secure the release of another 3 hostages yesterday. These are hostages that Hamas refused to support only a few days to release only a few days earlier. And I also thanked him for America's unequivocal backing for Israel's policy in Gaza in moving forward. I want to assure everyone who's now listening to us, President Trump and I are working in full cooperation and coordination between us. We have a common strategy, and we can't always share the details of this strategy with the public, including when the gates of hell will be open, as they surely will if all our hostages are not released until the last one of them. Israel is determined to achieve all the war objectives we set after the horrific attack on October 7th, the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. We will eliminate Hamas's military capability and its political rule in Gaza. We will bring all our hostages home, and we will ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. The unequivocal support of the United States on Gaza will help us achieve these objectives faster and set us on a path for a different future. Secretary Rubio and I discussed President Trump's bold vision for Gaza's future, how we can work together to ensure that that future becomes a reality. We also discussed the situation in Syria after the collapse of Assad's regime, a collapse that was made possible by Israel's weakening of Iran's terror axis, especially the weakening of Hezbollah and the removal of Nasrallah. For over a decade before October 7th, Israel acted to prevent Iran from developing new terror fronts against us in Syria, right opposite the Golan Heights and deeper in Syria. And we conducted hundreds of airstrikes, perhaps 1,000, in order to prevent it, and we did. Now, if any other force in Syria today believes that Israel will permit other hostile forces to use Syria as a base of operations against us, they are gravely mistaken. Israel will act to prevent any threat from emerging near our border in southwest Syria. The Secretary and I discussed Israel is committed to this.
This is part of the reason why I've changed the show name to Grave Concerns. I get this intuitive feeling that big things are happening in 2025 that can lead to existential threats to our livelihood, maybe even at the world at large. But you know, we're in tumultuous times. A lot is being packed into 2025. What I would say 10 years of history is getting packed in 2025. So we're going to see ceasefire and then all of a sudden a ramp up of hostilities again. And when that ramp up of hostilities starts again in the Middle East, it's probably going to be much more violent than what we saw in the last 2 years or a year and a half. And we may be seeing the decapitation of the Ayatollah, which I think needs to happen. But there are grave concerns on the horizon here that are emerging for 2025. So we have to pay attention to these things. There's some people that hate Netanyahu. Some people have aligned themselves with Netanyahu. I don't really care what your predisposition is on Netanyahu. The issue here is that there are an emergent behavior in the world that is taking place that's going to affect everybody.
Our understandings that were reached in November, we expect the government of Lebanon to be equally committed to their fulfillment. The scenes we saw this weekend in Beirut of UNIFIL forces being attacked by Hezbollah, this was not encouraging. The two UN resolutions that everyone refers to, 1559, 1709, 1701, well, they must be fully implemented. Hezbollah must be disarmed. And Israel would prefer that the Lebanese army do that job. But no one should doubt that Israel will do what it has to do to enforce the understandings of the ceasefire and defend our security. The Secretary and I also discussed how the many international institutions have been hijacked and turned into anti-American and anti-Israeli forums. We see that in the UN General Assembly, in the UN Human Rights Commission, where anti-Americanism is rampant, and more resolutions are passed about Israel than the rest of the world combined. And we see it especially in the lawfare that is being waged against America and Israel at the ICC, the ICJ, and elsewhere. The ICC has outrageously libeled Israel and issued arrest warrants based on utter lies. Like America, Israel is not subject to the jurisdiction of the ICC and does not accept the court's authority. Israel commends President Trump and his administration for restoring his executive order against the ICC and for moving quickly to sanction ICC officials. The Secretary and I discussed working together to formulate a common strategy to deal with the threat of lawfare and neutralize this threat once and for all. So these are some of the issues we discussed today. Believe it or not, there were more, many more. We can say that the Middle East today has many opportunities, many challenges, and we think we can realize the opportunities and also meet the challenges. And I have no doubt that working together, America and Israel will overcome the challenges and seize the opportunities. I have to say that I'm absolutely confident that under President Trump's leadership and working together with you, Secretary Rubio, Marco, the best days of our alliance are still yet to come. Welcome to Jerusalem. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. It is an honor to be back here. I've been here many times before as an American visiting and then as a member of the United States Senate, but now for the first time as Secretary of State of the United States. And it's an honor to be here. And it's an honor to serve in this role on behalf of President Donald Trump, who, as you've accurately stated, Mr. Prime Minister, is a tremendous friend of Israel. There's been no stronger ally for Israel in the White House than President Trump. He's also a man that speaks clearly and unambiguously and makes clear his views on issues. The first he's made clear is, and as you pointed out, and the hostages need to come home, they need to be released. And you work in very close coordination with him. He's working in very close coordination, but with the Prime Minister and his government and ensuring that that happens. That must happen. It's not optional. And would add that that's a goal we share in common, and that is something we work on very closely together. The president's also been very bold about his view of what the future for Gaza should be. Not the same tired ideas of the past, but something that's new, bold, and something that frankly took courage and vision in order to outline. And it may have shocked and surprised many, but what cannot continue is the same cycle where we repeat over and over again and wind up in the exact same place. Related to that, the president's been very clear. Hamas cannot continue as a military or government force. And frankly, as long as it stands as a force that can govern or as a force that can administer
Now,
or as a force
if the
that can threaten.
words that he's saying have teeth, then basically, if you read in between the lines, it means no more kicking the can down the road. It means getting the job done. If there's going to be a flare-up, it's possible that what happened during the last year and a half is going to be a firecracker to what Trump does. All right. And that's something that needs to happen. If you're going to do war, you got to do it where it's going to be absolute winning. Not this horse shit that's been going on for decades, where there's a flare up and then a ceasefire and then another flare up and a ceasefire, and then it just keeps on kicking the can down the road. More collateral damage takes place, more damage to city structures and buildings and residencies. More people die, it costs more. Why kick the can down the road? Unless the military-industrial complex loves the money and keeps on making more money when it just flares up again. We need to stop this cycle. It needs to stop. Now, if you follow biblical teachings, no matter what your predisposition is for your religion, it basically says that as we move towards the Messianic age, there will be a lasting peace, but there's going to be destruction in the process. And we may be living in that. We may be one of the stepping stones towards the Messianic era. So let it be. Let it be. Why continue on this false sense of security on both sides? The Palestinians and the Israelis, a false sense of security with this ceasefire crap. It just keeps on flaring up and flaring up and flaring up, and nothing gets done. So someone has to come in and be the, big Papa Bear. And I guess America is going to be Big Papa Bear, the way that Trump is setting this thing in motion for Gaza. Now, there will be people saying, oh, you can't take it away from Gaza and blah, 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 blah. Obviously, the Gazans can't rule themselves. That is absolutely obvious. Now, if they can't rule themselves, if they've been given chances to rule themselves and they can't get it done, then why not kick them out? Why? Why can't the larger community in the Middle East that's Arab to absorb these people? You had Europe absorb refugees from Ukraine. They'll probably never go back to Ukraine. The United States absorbed Ukrainians. I'm sure they're never going to go back to Ukraine. But something special with the Palestinians when they're refugees. The bottom line is this. Every time there's a flare-up, more people die. There's more destruction. It costs more. And not only that, the actors in the region are inching towards unconventional warfare. Chemical, biologic, radiological. Can you imagine if those rockets had dirty bombs on them? Could you imagine if those rockets had chemical weapons on them? Can you imagine those rockets had means of mass destruction other than just normal ordnance? Just imagine that. Because Iran's not that far away. Iranian engineers are really smart. Actually, they're probably smarter than American engineers.
By use of violence, peace becomes impossible. They must be eliminated. It must be eradicated. On the broader issues that we discussed as well is the questions in Syria. And while the fall of Assad is certainly promising and important, if Syria replacing one destabilizing force for another is not a positive development. And that is something that we will watch very carefully as we seek to craft our own strategy with regards to how to approach the events in Syria. In the case of Lebanon, our goals are aligned in the same. A strong Lebanese state that can take on and disarm Hezbollah. The common theme in all of these challenges is Iran. It is the single greatest source of instability in the region. Behind every terrorist group, behind every act of violence, behind every...
That's why Carter fucked up by not killing the fucker. President Carter and Zabinski and their policy in the Middle East and the grand chessboard was a failed foreign policy. And that's part of the reason why Carter is the second worst president in modern day history. The first is Biden. A policy of knocking out the Ayatollah permanently is the only way to get this in homeostasis.
Activity behind everything that threatens peace and stability for the millions of people who call this region home is Iran. And by Iran, I mean the Ayatollahs. By Iran, I mean its regime. A regime who, by the way, its people don't support. The people of Iran are victims of that regime.
Exactly. Very educated, more democratic. They want to be secular. in most cases. But even if the ones that want to be religious, that's fine too. But they want to have a democracy, and they're smart people. The Iranians are smart people, but they're being held down by a theocracy, and that theocracy is funding terrorism. And this is the great negative soul root of Esau that has to die. That has to die. There is no other way. The negative root of Esau has to die.
And so I think it's important to constantly point that whether we talk about Hamas or we talk about Hezbollah or we talk about violence in the West Bank or we talk about destabilization in Syria or we talk about any of these issues, the militias in Iraq, they all have behind them one common theme: Iran. And that must be addressed. And there can never be a nuclear Iran.
Yep.
A nuclear Iran that could then hold itself immune from pressure and from action. That can never happen.
Secretary Rubio, it's not just the nuclear weapons, it's also biologics. Believe me, their scientists are really smart.
The president's been clear about that as well. And so I close where I began by reiterating our strong support for our allies, very close allies and partners here in Israel, to the people of this great country, for whom we have tremendous love and respect for everything you're facing, have faced, and continue to face. It is an extraordinary story of bravery. A nation founded in the ashes and in the aftermath of a horrifying crime against humanity, stood from its very inception, from the very day of its birth, against threats from every angle and every corner, and has served as an example to the world of a pluralistic society, a free enterprise democracy, and one that if there were more Israels in the Middle East, more countries like that, the world would be a safer and a better place. And this is what we hope for the region and for our planet. A nation that's always sought peace, but will not allow itself to be intimidated or destroyed by its enemies.
He's not saying it, but what's happening is that there's 71 nations, and the machine's going to be rebooted. And the other, that 70 nations plus one, those 70 nations are going to have peace and prosperity through the peace offerings that are given annually to the machine, the temple. It's been written down for thousands of years this is going to happen. But guess what? You have to kill negative Esau first. And he happens to have a turban that's living in the fucking in fucking Iran.
And on that front, you can always count on us, as long as I'm in this position and President Trump is in the White House. So thank you. Thank you.
I'm telling you, we are seeing major changes in this world. We are living through biblical times. Now, will we see the Messianic, the actual Messiah or the Messianic era? I don't know. I don't know. No one knows for sure. No one knows. But we are moving towards those stepping stones for sure. No doubt about that. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Please get my elderberry zinc lozenges or my manuka honey lozenges. The United States is still in the cold season. People are getting, under the weather, but also the allergy seasons are going to start. Make sure you have the lozenges and the drops at work, at home, ready to use right away. The moment you have that irritation in your throat, take the lozenges or the drops. These are made from structural nanosilver. Again, get it in elderberry zinc or manuka honey. But I also have the drops in 100 count. The flavors are blueberry, honey and lemon, and cherry. So get a few bags of the drops and the lozenges, have them at home, at work, take it right away when you have that irritation and neutralize the problem. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the lozenges and the drops. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. It's all caps, discount 5, the number 5, discount 5, and get $5 off any order, including the orders on the longevity boxes and the anti-aging boxes, which are built in with a discount. All right. whole idea is to get these products in your hands because they work to help with your health. In addition, please go to my store and get the VeggieCap probiotics or the powdered version probiotics. I take the powdered version because I add a bunch of powders to my lunch, like the collagen, like the Boomer Boost, like the Gladiator Barley, like lignans. And so it's just easier for me. But for the ones that take a probiotic, take either the VeggieCap version or the powdered version. The powdered version, you mix it with soft foods like hummus or yogurt. You can mix it with filtered water or a smoothie. It's up to you, but take it every day. That brings down inflammation, improves the mucosal lining. That means you're improving your immune system. You're reducing the chances of leaky gut syndrome, and you're reducing the chances of that chronic inflammation that may lead to mutations in the crypt of your gut. That's how polyps start to form. So if you have a healthy gut, you're reducing the chances of colon cancers and other problems, irritable bowel syndromes and stuff like this. So in addition to having a good gut biome, you're going to improve your metabolism. You're going to improve the nutrients that you're absorbing and the communication between your gut and your liver, which is a major detox organ, and your gut and your brain. Now, with a good gut biome, you're going to be able to sleep better. You're going to be able to concentrate better. And you're reducing the chances of early onset of dementia, because there is a connection between Alzheimer's and dementia with poor gut health, right? That research is just coming out. So that's new. That'll be evolving, but gut health is correlated to some dementias early onset. All right. So it just behooves you to just have a good gut biome because it helps all of your bodily systems. In addition, a good gut biome helps with your skin, your hair, and your nails. If you look at a patient that has a poor gut biome, has a lot of inflammation, chronic inflammation in the gut, you can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their skin. You can see it in their nails and hair. There's a physical manifestation of these problems. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the probiotic VeggieCap or the powder, use discount 5, get $5 off. I want to get these products in your hand. Why? Because they work and they're extremely high quality, and it helps support my work and it helps support your health. It's a win-win situation. All right, let's go to Sky News here, talking about Assad's prisons.
Coming up, the filmmakers behind an Oscar-nominated documentary charting a dark time in Canada's history.
All right, let's see what live now.
As soon as Air Force One flies over the track, it's going to land about 12:45. The plane.
Oh, I didn't know that. It's the Daytona 500.
We're expecting Air Force One to land here at Daytona International Airport this afternoon.
Wow.
And if it's anything like the last time President Trump visited the Daytona 500, he's likely to take the presidential limo around the track. The FAA has already closed the airspace over the speedway for the afternoon, only open to the Secret Service, the president, and local law enforcement. The president won't be arriving through the main terminal. He'll be landing at a private terminal here on the airport property. Speedway officials have announced tighter security at the gates all day today, and we got the reaction from some of the folks here at the terminal.
It's going to be the best part. When we heard he might be here, that was so exciting.
Speedway officials say anybody visiting for the Daytona 500 race should give themselves
I'm
time
sorry.
to get through security because of the heightened security measures. At Daytona International Airport, Matt Trezza, Fox 35 News.
Is it? Yeah, this is live. That's live. I'm shocked that it's this early in the year.
Right now, just about a mile from here is where Matt Trezza is. He's with what's going to be the president's location. As soon as Air Force One flies over the track, it's going to land about 12:45. The plane will with Matt Trezza. Let's check in for the latest on that.
We're we're expecting Air Force One to land here at Daytona International Airport this afternoon. And if it's anything like the last time President Trump visited the Daytona 500, he's likely to take the presidential limo around the track. The FAA has already closed the airspace over the speedway for the afternoon, only open to the Secret Service, the president, and local law enforcement. The president won't be arriving through the main terminal. He'll be landing at a private terminal here on the airport property. Speedway officials
That's pretty cool.
tighter security.
You know, the thing is,
all day today, and
you know, the thing with Trump is that he's not only on the international side of the presidency, right? He's very active. He's very active with domestic policy, but he's also very active with just being just a regular person. But he does it with that whole Trump flair, like, you know, being in the Monster, which is the limo for the president. It's called the Monster. Being in the Monster, going around a Daytona track. I mean, that's something that you don't see Biden doing. You didn't see Clinton do. You didn't see, you know, there's things that this guy does, that Trump does, that is just over the top, you know, but it's cool. It humanizes him, but in a Trumpian way. You know, it's just, it's funny, actually. It's pretty funny. Okay, I want to, let's see. Let me go back to that now and see if they continue to, all the coverage is right now on the.
Oh, so what's your name?
Hey, my name is Marcy.
Hey, did you all decide to do this together, or did you happen to show up wearing these?
I've never gone to the Daytona, but I have seen stock car racing before. All right, let's go to Al Jazeera. Right now, it looks like there's a protest going on in Munich.
In sports, Liverpool are aiming to extend their lead in the English.
It's hard, to be honest, it's hard to catch certain segments when you're playing like 4 or 5 different live feeds. And that's some of the problems that I have with you know, covering live news when it breaks, is that unfortunately I miss it. I apologize. Okay, let's go to Cash Jordan. This is a video that he posted an hour ago. Trump finds 600,000 more migrants, orders total deportation.
As ICE raids have been unfolding in major cities like Chicago and New York, the Trump administration has revoked temporary protected status for more than 600,000 Venezuelans in the United States.
600,000 people will soon have their protected status canceled, which means they could be eligible for deportation. And as the Trump administration ramps up ICE raids in sanctuary cities, many people living in places like New York are on edge, because in 45 days, they may need to be living somewhere else.
The prospect of more operations focused not just on violent criminals, but on the undocumented, has New York's immigrant population living in fear.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem called out former DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, accusing him of using temporary protected status, or TPS, as a loophole to let migrants stay here and violate the laws.
Definitely the fear is real.
Members of the notorious Tren de Aragua gang are increasingly drawn to sanctuary cities. It's Venezuela's largest criminal organization, linked to dozens of high-profile crimes in this country, like this apartment building takeover.
We're going to make our community safer by targeting those who are in the country, believe me, that have criminal record. But if you force us into the community and not let us get the bad guy into jail, it means more collateral arrests, means more non-criminals being arrested, because when we find the bad guy, which we will, there's going to be others with them.
So over 500,000 Venezuelans now have just a few weeks to figure.
Cash Jordan does good work, but Cash Jordan, listen to me, all right? I know you're watching. Stop the rap and the hip hop. I hate the soundtrack. Play a little bit of 80s, all right?
Their plans if they want to stay in America. But what none of the activists claiming that this is horrible news bother mentioning is that temporary protected status is just that, temporary, and ICE doesn't have the personnel to deport everybody at once, which is why the border czar's made it clear he's prioritizing criminals and national security threats first, some of whom are here benefiting from federal deportation protection on the grounds that their home countries are so dangerous. With so much gang violence, nobody can live there safely. But the problem is the criminals and gang members that destroyed some of these places are now here benefiting from a status that protects them from what they did to the places they used to live, while making it impossible to remove them from this country. However, that's about to change because in 45 days, federal rules that unknowingly help the wrong people hide in America will come to an end, about a year ahead of schedule, at which point everyone involved will have to decide whether to leave America on their own, apply for asylum, or hunker down in a sanctuary city like New York in violation of federal immigration law. An idea that gets riskier every single day as ICE raids continue across sanctuary cities at a pace nobody in this country thought was possible. Which brings us to the real reason activists and enemies of America's borders are so outraged by these recent decisions. Temporary protected status is a legal form of U.S. residency. The last administration kept extending that, and that, in combination with America's wide open borders, we now know was essentially being used to fast-track mass migration to our country at an unsustainable level, a situation that allowed gang members and criminals to embed themselves in communities all over America.
Authorities arrested 20 people wanted on criminal charges. The enforcement actions happened in Washington Heights, Queens, and the Bronx, and that's where authorities took into custody Anderson Zambrano Pacheco, the reputed Venezuelan gang member.
These gang members were all caught in New York City apartments that they used as bases to plan and commit crime all over town. Not exactly nice guys. And they do this while exploiting other immigrants, as this gang's specialty is human trafficking, which, as you're about to see, has made their presence in America an absolute disaster for everybody in every way imaginable.
You yourself have stated that if there is a Venezuelan migrant community in a neighborhood, then there's likely the Tren de Aragua gang. Why?
Because instead of building their enterprise off of narcotics like a lot of other gangs, they built their entire enterprise off the backs of over 8 million Venezuelans fleeing Venezuela and other countries in South America.
So it's important to understand that the only reason these guys are even here is because starting in 2023, America's front door was wide open, and these guys came here posing as asylum seekers, fleeing exactly what it was that created most of this crisis to begin with, at least as far as Venezuela is concerned. But because of temporary protected status, some of these criminals, even if their asylum claim gets denied, they're still able to reside in the country and live here and work here. They can even get a normal job because TPS gives work authorization. But that's not what they're here for. Instead, they've come here to commit as much crime as possible, hitting levels that were not possible in Venezuela where they're from. And their ideas, their dreams, they're not the American dream at all, that's for sure.
And once the Tren de Aragua establishes a cell within a community, what's their end game? What happens next?
Before I have him answer that question, just for the ones that know, during the live stream on my website or on YouTube, I have a simulcast with X Spaces. Individuals are in X Spaces right now. Feel free to listen through X Spaces, or if you have a question or you want to comment about the news that we're covering, please just request the mic on X Spaces and I'll let you on live through the streaming system that I have and ask your question. It's supposed to be interactive. For the ones that are listening on X Spaces, thank you very much, especially the ones that are viewers or listeners, throughout many of the episodes. Thank you for joining.
To govern and control that area. So they're going to seize areas, they're going to seize apartments, they're going to seize abandoned buildings, they're going to take over the migrant care centers, and their whole goal is to infiltrate themselves within the criminal underworld in that local area.
Something they're doing in parts of New York right now. If you walk around in Jackson Heights, Queens, you'll see flea markets set up on random sidewalks full of stolen goods. And we've had recent robbery patterns in Midtown Manhattan and in Central Park, which were traced back to these very criminals, some of whom were living in city-funded asylum shelters. But that's about to change because, as you're about to see, these gang members, they're no longer going to have this blanket protection, this temporary protected status that allows them to stay here when they shouldn't even be in the country to begin with.
The Trump administration has revoked temporary protected status for more than 600,000 Venezuelans in the United States, implemented by the Biden administration. TPS is a federal program that allows people from certain countries.
Over a half
1 million illegals just from one country. The border is way too porous. We need to close down that border and fix this illegal immigration problem, like pronto.
To live and work in the U.S. when it's deemed unsafe to return to their home country.
Why would it be unsafe to return to their home country? Well, it's because of what these gang members did, and these guys are now here benefiting from what they did back home. It doesn't make any sense. And by protecting these criminals and treating them as victims of what they've already done, we've just enabled them, especially in sanctuary cities like New York, where in some cases we've moved these individuals into
Honestly, I think Cash Jordan, all kidding aside, I think Cash Jordan, when it comes to what's going on in New York with this illegal immigration, he has done the best job than anybody. And this is an excellent example where you have independent journalists or podcasters shining a light on a major problem where our government officials cannot solve the problem. They just fail to solve the problem. And this is the power of independent journalism or podcasting. And this is the reason why the viewership needs to help support individuals like him and myself and others. There are many people that are a part of this really hodgepodge, chaotic community of independent journalism, if that's the term you want to use. And we all have our own style. But the thing is that the viewers need to support this, because most of the content that's created is for free. But it takes time to make this stuff. And it takes time to, share opinions and to build an audience, right? Now, it's through this, like I said, it's through the support of purchasing the products and helping out with the donations and, buying the different, the different offerings that I have and being paid members to help thousands of these videos to be free. Now, I have thousands of videos for free for people. I don't put it behind a paywall. I have thousands of videos for free. I don't put it behind Substack or anything else, because I feel as though the things that I have to say are important for you to understand where things are going with economics and finance, where things are going with geopolitics, domestic policy, and your health, and what's going on in the scientific world, especially when it comes to medicine and biology. It's really important, and that's why it's for free. But it's through the support of the audience that allows that to happen. Because where are you going to get this kind of information or this kind of point of view, this kind of op-ed? Would you prefer only getting op-eds from Wall Street Journal and the New York Times? Or do you want to support people like myself and like Cash Jordan and others, right? Because the world is a better place because of the independent journalists and the podcasters. Because we're shining a light on what's wrong with the mainstream media and this whole Smith monetization and how the government was embedded with the mainstream media to put a wool over your eyes.
Shelters that have little kids and school-aged children there who are now living down the hall from gang members who may be trying to recruit them or worse. But apparently the open U.S. border, that was such a huge opportunity for these Venezuelan gang members that it may have actually changed Venezuela forever. Why is Venezuela's crime rate falling? Well, it says right here, there's a major link between mass criminal migration and decreased crime over there. And it says right here that—
Isn't that what Trump just said? Trump said they're sending their criminals and they're the ones that are insane and all this stuff, right? Now Trump speaks in hyperbole because he's from New York and he's Trump, but what he's saying is true. You got to get to the core. What is he saying? Not how he's saying it. Not, that orange man is bad, but what is he saying? And it's happening. You see it on the streets of New York every day, every day. I'm not joking on this. Every day, there is crime because of this illegal immigration.
The economy is so bad, criminals can't commit the same crime that they used to, which is why these criminals had to come here. This is a place, America, where they can commit all kinds of crime that a lot of us, and especially our leaders in places like New York, were just totally unprepared for.
The rollback means federal agents can now review all individuals who receive TPS, including members of the notorious Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Noam also pointed to overwhelming public support.
Okay, so here's the thing. These gang members, they come here. They say that they're seeking asylum. But of course, they're not going to qualify because they're gang members. They might be dangerous. And ironically, because Venezuela is
And
now...
it gets even worse, Cash Jordan. All right. They get in here illegally. They somehow align themselves with a nonprofit like Catholic Charities or even UJF, which is the United Jewish Foundation or Federation. And what they do is they get money from the government to process these illegals to get them into legal status. So they're working with the NGOs and the nonprofits, and the government's paying for it. Your tax dollars are paying for people like those gangs to align themselves with the nonprofits to try to get legal status. Now, a lot of times when it happens, it bounces back, but it takes years to process these people. So they're sitting here, and then because they have nefarious action, nefarious ethos, what happens is they start causing lots of crime. You got to stop the funding at the NGOs and the nonprofits that are funding, trying to legalize the illegal immigrant population. That's a major mechanism that the Biden administration used. I know this for a fact because I have seen the money flow from, I have literally seen the money flow from Chuck Schumer to Catholic Charities for DACA.
And the humanitarian crisis down there is dying down. It's not really such a heartless thing to cancel temporary protected status when the protected status no longer even needs to apply. And the country is taking back people who are known gang members. This is something that people never thought was going to happen. Venezuela said, we don't want to take these people back. And they refused for quite some time, but now they are. And if people are extremely dangerous, too dangerous to be sent back to Venezuela because they could escape custody there and come back to America, the Trump administration wants to hold them in facilities like Guantanamo Bay, which to some people might sound really extreme, but you've got to understand, this gang, they didn't just use sanctuary cities like New York and places in Colorado to export crime to other areas of our country. They were actually using the protection we were giving them here.
Let me read that graph that he just showed. If I can get to it. Hold on. He did it really quick.
Places in Colorado to export crime to other areas of our country.
Let me read. This is the coast-to-coast ICE operations. Cleveland, Detroit, St. Paul, Omaha, Cincinnati, Dallas, Denver, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Austin, San Antonio, Corpus Christi, Houston, New Orleans, Miami, Charleston, Atlanta, Newark, New York, Boston, Buffalo. I mean, it's crazy. San Jose. I mean, it's just, and that's just a piece of all the operations. That's not all of them.
They were actually using the protection we were giving them here to re-export crime to the entire world.
Authorities say the alleged gang.
That's the point I'm making. And and the strange thing is, not all, but a lot of these people are embedded with the nonprofit, and the nonprofit is helping them through because the nonprofit loves the money coming from the government. They love those grants coming from the government, and they have all these lawyers trying to process these illegals and put them into asylum seeking category. And once you put it in the asylum seeking category, they can stay here while it's getting processed. And then you have a subset of these people that are causing the crime. So the nonprofits in the United States, like Catholic Charities and UJF, so I'm not just going after Catholic Charities here, even though I used to manage a portfolio from Catholic Charities, and do the budget for New York's Catholic Charities. But the thing is, I know a lot about the subject matter. All right. And the thing is, it's not just Catholic Charities. It's also the United Jewish Federation that's part of this bullshit. I lost the audio here. I don't know why I lost the audio. I don't know. Sometimes when I get upset, the electronics like go haywire. I don't know if you have the same problem at home.
And 34 guns were recovered, including 4 semi-automatic.
So these guys were stockpiling weapons in their apartment. They were using those weapons to arm local criminals here in New York. They were going to send them across the country, and then they were going to send them to other countries. These guys were definitely not here for the American dream, that's for sure. But look at this. What they did come here for was to recruit new members. It says it right here, inside shelters in places like New York. And look at this. Here's a map. They came from Venezuela, and then they almost exclusively went to places where they knew they would be protected legally from deportation.
Okay, so they go to Venezuela. They go to El Paso, and then Denver, and then Utah County, and then Canyon County. And then from El Paso, they go to Chicago, and from El Paso to New York City.
Protection, which they're still getting, by the way, in places like New York, because as a sanctuary city, we do not cooperate with the federal government when it comes to immigration matters. Police are banned from turning people over to them. Yet, even though we know we've got these gang members living in some of our asylum shelters, as a sanctuary city, you've still got a massive number of people here who want to advocate on behalf of these gang members. They are so upset that ICE is going into apartments and pulling these people out of their communities where they've embedded themselves, where they're committing crime, and making these communities safer. For some reason, people here are really upset about that. And they are super upset with New York City's mayor for cooperating with the federal government.
See, Natasha, this memo went out to all city agencies, including schools, hospitals, and migrant shelters. And it tells some city employees that they can allow federal immigration officers onto city property if they, quote...
I want to just roll back here, for the ones that are watching. In France 24, if you have been in a disaster and you have seen carnage, you know what real carnage looks like versus fake carnage. All right, like stage carnage. And you also know when people are hurt. If you've worked on people that are hurt, especially in an emergency setting, you can tell what's real and what's fake. All right, let me tell you what's fake. So I know I'm pivoting, but it's my show and I can do whatever the hell I want. So on France 24, they were showing a strike that looks like happened that killed. It says that Israeli strikes kill 3 police officers. Okay. Now I want to play this just little section before we go back to Cash Jordan to prove my point here.
To the area to secure the entry of aid trucks into the enclave, and says it's a clear violation.
Hamas says police strike, serious violation of truce. Okay, I'm looking at these people. All right, these are fake tears, and this is not this scene that they're filming is staged.
Ceasefire agreement. The group said Israel was.
See, look at these kids. These kids here. That's not real fear. If you've been in a situation where you've seen real fear, you can see it in the eyes. There's an intuitiveness, right? You see the fear. You feel the fear off the person. This is fake. This is 100% fake. Now, the incident may have happened, but what's being filmed right here is fake. This kid is faking. So that's one part of the fake film here. The second, that's all fake. I can tell he's trying to cover his eyes because he's trying to cover his eyes and he looks away to see if he's getting some affirmation, and then he covers the eyes again because he's faking. He's covering the fake. And this is the thing about Esau. He thinks he's cunning. This is the problem with the Palestinians. All right, this now it goes to an individual where this person is being helped by two adults. The one in the center is an adult that looks like he's wounded. All right, and he looks like he is in pain or crying. And I'm looking at the people that are on the floor that may have been in the previous video, in the previous scene. I don't know for sure, but I'm looking around and what I'm seeing are, this looks staged. Now let's keep on playing it. Yeah, that face and that pain or whatever he's showing, that's fake pain. I'm telling you, for people that have been in an emergency situation, they know what I'm talking about. This is not real. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. 100% bullshit. The same thing. This guy on the floor. This guy on the floor. He has his head down, looking like he's crying or looking like he's in distress. Another guy is crouched down, kneeling down, also covering his mouth. This all looks fake. It looks staged. And then they cut away. They cut away. They don't interview the people, but they'll say that there's some. Now, I'm sure that Israel killed police officers. I'm sure they hid something. I'm not saying they didn't. The point I'm making is that the people that are filming this crap, they're staging it to get the international community to demonize the war effort in the Middle East to kill negative Esau. What we just saw there, the fakeness is what is the problem with Esau. And I want anyone that's listening that's done any emergency medicine or any type of triage, you'll come to the same fucking conclusion that I have.
In between Israel and Hamas. As with the previous swaps, it was a heavily choreographed event with masked Hamas gunmen parading the hostages on a stage in Gaza before handing them over to the Red Cross. Emily Boyle has more now on the optics of the exchange.
On one side, Israeli hostages are shown off to crowds surrounded by Hamas fighters. On the other, Palestinian prisoners.
With that, I'm shifting back to Cash Jordan because New York's a shithole.
Reasonably threatened. The memo also warned that actively harboring or shielding an undocumented immigrant is a federal crime.
Yes, it is. You could get arrested if you go and do that. If you're going to block federal agents who have a warrant or need to go into a building to arrest somebody who's dangerous, if you stop them from going in there, you could be arrested. And if the mayor tells people to stand up to federal agents, he's now harboring criminals and he could be arrested. The border czar's already said that he's going to go after sanctuary city mayors who refuse to cooperate. But the situation in New York's really weird because here we've got a mayor who understands that gang members and criminals are a public safety problem. He wants to get rid of them, but now he's in trouble with the city council who doesn't want any of that. They want a leader here in New York to say that we are a sanctuary city, we are part of a resistance movement, and we're not going to cooperate. We're going to stand up to ICE. That's what they want. But look at this. You know who's very excited about these ICE raids? Parents of asylum seeker kids who live in shelters. This is somebody who lives at the Roosevelt Hotel. This is a hotel where we know there are gang members living in here. Look, here are photos of them. They call themselves Diablos de la 42. They live in the Roosevelt Hotel. It says it right here. And these parents have no idea how
last year,
she is
no kidding. Last year, summertime, there were in front of the Roosevelt Hotel, which is not that far away from the Harvard Club. It's a couple blocks away. But the thing is that by the Roosevelt Hotel, there were a ton of mopeds. All the mopeds are gone now, but there were a ton of mopeds. And there were all these illegal immigrants just sitting on the, on the sidewalk, or they had actually a room for processing, not in the lobby, but in one of the back rooms that had a door to the street that you could see that they're getting processed through. All right. And at that time, what was going on in the news in New York City? people on mopeds taking women's purses or stealing people's iPhones or hitting them in the head. That all went away. In some cases, some people were shooting randomly at people. That problem went away when the mopeds went away in front of Roosevelt Hotel. All right? So with the Roosevelt Hotel, with this problem that was going on there, by taking away those mopeds and adding some law and order to the community, the moped type incidences diminished. Maybe not 100%, but radically went down. So that shows you that the crime is coming from there, from the Roosevelt Hotel. You know, it's just, it's crazy. What's going on in New York's crazy. And it's run by a bunch of liberals that care more about illegal immigrants than the actual citizens, American citizens, that are paying the tax dollars, that are paying the city taxes, that are the lifeblood of the community. And they're just shitting on them. And I've seen this in these kind of like council meetings where you have the village complaining to the councilwoman or male on the problems that are happening, or there may be a talk by the DA or some government official like the mayor. And when it goes to Q&A, you have citizens complaining about this, and they just stonewall and go, yeah, you know, there's a problem, but, you know, they have 1,000 excuses. They don't solve the problem. But you have a community, the community itself, they want this stopped. They want the crime to stop, and they want the illegal immigrants out.
Her sons will be pulled into gangs sprouting up in this place. And you know what? These deportations, these raids, they are not a threat to people who have a pending asylum case and were granted parole in the United States while they wait for that case to play out. Those folks, as long as they don't.
And that was processed through Catholic Charities and UJF. Thank you so much.
They've got nothing to worry about. But now the New York City resistance movement is gearing up to do everything they can to stop any action that would remove people from the country who aren't supposed to be here.
So this memo is the first time we're seeing anything that provides something different, that gives additional leeway and kind of advertises a way for ICE to get in if they want to. And that's what's causing the panic.
Advertises a way for ICE to get in, telling city employees not to stand up to armed federal agents, advertises a way for ICE to get in. That's ridiculous. But one fascinating development here is that there has already been resistance towards local law enforcement crackdowns targeting these gang members inside the very shelters where we know they're residing. Here is a photo of the tent shelters at Randall's Island. These are in the process of being shut down, but we know that there's gang members living in there. There have been for quite some time. And the NYPD came here to raid this place. But you know what happened? Investigators believe private security guards tipped off people that were in the shelter that the NYPD was on the way. So
I'll tell you, these people that tip these illegals, right? And ICE can't do their operations. These individuals that are tipping them, they should be prosecuted. One, they put the officers in danger, the ICE officers in danger, but not just that. They're inhibiting the process of deportation. Why do these individuals feel as though they have the right to inhibit the process? They're here illegally. ICE has been given the authority to execute operations to deport these individuals, especially the serious criminal ones. So why are these bleeding heart liberals trying to stop this from happening? Unless they want to do some sort of controlled demolition of the society. I mean, it's crazy. Literally, I'm serious. New York is not safe. New York is not safe. And if New York goes, don't you think some other communities in the country are going to go too? My observation in New York, and I was born and raised in the Midwest, all right, you know, and heavily into the whole manufacturing world, all right. But there is something about New York where it's the pulse of the country. It always has been, right? It goes all the way back to before even the founding of the country. It goes all the way back to 1630s or 1636, I think it was, all right, or maybe 1626. I think it was when officially the Dutch came over and bought the land for seashells or something. But the thing is, the oyster shells, I think, with blue oyster shells. But the thing is that it's been pulsing ever since the 1600s. And the system, right? The country, the social system that we built up over 400 years, all right? At 400 years, you know, it's pulsing. It's like a heart. You know, if you look at like an embryo, in the early stages of the embryo, what starts? After the folding, right? After the you have the tri-layer, you know, you have the blastocyst and you have that tri-layer, and then it folds and it's starting to develop its nervous system. But there's the beat. It just starts to beat. There's a heart that starts to form slowly, right? And then it folds during the development. But New York is that beat of the embryo of America, all right? And we've been growing ever since for 400 years. And now we're, you know, more mature and we've more developed. But the point is that the heart, the flow, the energy is New York. Now, if the heart is diseased because of bad policy, don't you think that the rest of the system, the rest of the social system will fall into disease too?
We're on the way there, which would now be a federal crime. If the new border czar catches you doing that, it's going to put you in jail. And it looks like at the local level in New York, there is either no willpower or no law that would stop someone from aiding or embedding criminals who are here or impeding a police investigation. And some of our leaders are upset about all of this ICE activity, and they want the mayor to take a stronger stance against it because they do not like the idea of collateral arrests. If a gang member is located in an apartment and he's living with other people, they don't like the idea that everybody who's here unlawfully gets arrested. They're not interested in finding out why there's other people living with gang members. They don't care about that. They're just upset that somebody got arrested who wasn't a gang member.
The collateral arrests happen when we're looking for the bad guy and we find others with them. And we have told ICE officers they're going to enforce the law. Unlike the last administration, we're not telling ICE agents ignore the oath you took, ignore the immigration law. The immigration officers enforce those laws.
The big question here to me is, why are there people living in an apartment with gang members? Why does a gang member feel safe being around the people that they're located with? These are the questions we need to ask, because those people very well may be connected to that.
They're either connected to the crime tangentially, they're held hostage by these gang members. Maybe there's human trafficking that's going on in some cases, maybe not all cases, but in some cases. There's like a slave labor that's taking place. People are stealing goods from Walgreens and Dwayne Reed, all right, and trying to sell that stuff on the street or sell it online. And these people that are doing it are kind of like slaves to the gang. So there's a criminal enterprise that's starting to develop in New York. So that could be part of the reason why there are collaterals. And another thing is maybe they're learning from Hamas. Embed yourself with other people, so maybe the government won't go after you, because you'll have a part of society that says, don't kick out, don't deport the collaterals. But if they embed themselves with a bunch of collaterals, they feel protected. So it could be the whole spectrum of what I just said.
Remember, they might be gang members that we just don't know about yet. We know that Trende Aragua is here to grow their criminal empire, to recruit new people. This guy right here is one of the Trende Aragua ringleaders from that Colorado apartment raid. And look at this. He was living in an apartment building in the Bronx across from a school. He's apparently this guy right here in the red. That's supposed to be him. We know he came to New York after the Colorado apartment raid. Why did he feel safe here? And why did other people feel safe with him? He had weapons inside the apartment that he was caught with. How come they were okay with living with somebody in an apartment where there were weapons? And you know something?
Now, I know I'm pivoting here. But it's my show and I can do whatever I want, right? On Sky News, they were showing how in hockey, you know, because a lot of times there's hockey fights, how the USA team was fighting the Canadian team. So they had a brawl. And I don't know if the US won or the Canadians won the brawl. I'm not sure. But, you know, tensions are starting to build up even in hockey. Welcome to America.
Reveals that this whole issue of collateral arrests is actually a non-issue when you look at how these collateral arrests happen. One person is being sought out. They are found with others. Anyone who's with them who's also here illegally, yes, they're also arrested because that's immigration law. But look at how badly the mainstream media wants to get the border czar to say that these raids are really about rounding up everybody no matter who they are, which isn't the case.
Enough. We need to find these people and take them off the street.
You talk about taking down the violent criminals, the gang members, but then the illegal immigrants at places like the car washes and other businesses.
Well, I think I said from day one, the president made clear we're concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. Well, if you're in the country legally, you're not off the table, but you're not going to be a priority. But I'm sure the car wash, I'm not familiar with that operation, but I'm sure they're looking for a criminal, and they didn't find, they found others. But worksite enforcement is coming back. So
it's about time.
So they need to go to these businesses to find people who they get a tip or who they know might be there. And if they show up at one of these places, whether the person's there, whether the person's not there, they had a reason to go. They know that they've entered the environment where that criminal, where that dangerous gang member is. And let's say you're here, let's say you're in the country and you're not supposed to be here. Well, the best thing that you could do would be to separate yourself from these dangerous criminals who are armed, who ICE might be coming after. Because the best way to guarantee that ICE does not come to your business looking for a dangerous criminal is to not work with one. Simple as that. Then you don't have to be afraid if you're going to work because ICE is only after the criminals. And the reason that this is important is because it makes these criminals toxic to pretty much everybody. You do not want to be around gang members because gang members are now a magnet for law enforcement. But what do you think about 600,000 people losing their temporary protected status over the next few weeks? And why do you think that people are so upset that this temporary status is ending? It was temporary. It was going to end anyways. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.
I personally think that you got to cut the funding to the NGOs and the nonprofits, and you have to have an administration in New York that is like Giuliani, where you have to really hit hard the crime. We are moving back to pre-Giuliani days in New York, all right? And that's not a good thing at all. For businesses, for the safety of the community, for the vibrance of the boroughs, we cannot go back to a pre-Giuliani day. So Mayor Adams, which I voted for, I hoped that he was going to be a mayor that was going to be more like Giuliani and be tough on crime because of his experience in law enforcement. But that's not the case. He has not lived up to what people voted for him, wanted. So that's, you know, we need a Giuliani. We need something like that, tough on crime. And you know, and it's like the broken window theory. If you handle the small stuff, guess what? The big stuff handles themselves too. All right? You got to be tough on the crime. You can't just let these little, the petty stuff just go. You have to go after that too. And what happens is the whole community starts to be safer, and then businesses will come in and invest. Stores will open up, and then the community is just more vibrant. But when the crime is habitual, big crime and little crime, right? Then businesses pull out. The tax base pulls out. People leave the city and the city starts to decline. You don't want to go back to pre-Giuliani days, but we're like right there. We're right at the event horizon of this. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the olive leaf extract. It's a dual purpose product. You should take it every day. It helps your immune system and your cardiovascular system. It works by bringing down inflammation and improving your lipid profile. So by bringing down inflammation and improving your lipid profile, you're helping your cardiovascular health and reducing plaque formation. And also by bringing down chronic inflammation, you're helping your immune system. Please go to my store, get the olive leaf extract, take it every day, improve your cardiovascular health and your immune system. Use discount 5 to get $5 off. I want these products to get into your hands and use them regularly. Follow my protocols and you're going to get healthier. Vitamin B complex. The first 4 B vitamins helps your mitochondrial health and helps with the electron transport chain. That basically means that you're going to have more ATP. You have more energy. You ever see a young puppy that's running around? It's because it has lots of ATP. You ever see a kid running around, a 2-year-old? It has lots of ATP. You ever see a 70-year-old sitting in a chair rotting away? That's because they have low ATP. It's real simple. Vitamin B complex also boosts up your metabolism. And B12 helps to protect your neurons. If you're 40 plus years of age, you should be taking B complex to boost up your energy levels and start protecting your neurons. A lot of people don't protect their neurons early enough and they start having gait issues and neurodegeneration when they're in their geriatric years. Digestive enzyme complex, reduce the load on your pancreas. You're 40 plus years of age, guess what? I don't care how healthy you are, and I'm pretty healthy. Everyone has a diminished pancreas. Everyone. So guess what? Reduce the load on your pancreas so it doesn't continue to devolve. All right. Digestive enzyme complex helps to break up carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. It has the enzymes that your pancreas normally secretes to break up your food. So when you take this supplement, you're going to be able to break up your food. You're going to be able to absorb it. You're putting less stress on your pancreas. And this can be also used by athletes, either older athletes or younger athletes, because you're doing a pre and a post nutrition fueling of your body. And by taking the digestive enzyme complex, it's going to help you break up those carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids to be able to fuel your body and to recover quicker. So this is dual purpose for ones that are athletes and ones that are not athletes. But please pay attention to me. Everyone's pancreas declines with age. Everyone's. Please take this digestive enzyme complex. You don't want a failing pancreas, because if you have a failing pancreas, guess what? You're going to die. Omega-3 helps with lipid profile. It's synergistic with the olive leaf extract. Omega-3 brings down LDL levels, raises HDL levels, so you're improving your total cholesterol. That's really important, because when you have lower LDL and higher HDL, that means that you have less LDL that will oxidize and therefore less plaque buildup. Also, omega-3 brings down systemic inflammation, and omega-3 prevents over-sticking of red blood cells. So it reduces the chances of overclotting. You should be taking omega-3 every day. I don't care what your age is, because the reality of the situation with the latest discoveries in cardiology, when you're 16 years old, that's when heart disease starts. That's when vascular disease starts. 16 years old. You may not be symptomatic, but it starts at 16. So don't you think you should be improving your cardiovascular fitness when you're in your teens to prevent the problems that start becoming symptomatic when you're in your 30s or 40s? All right. With that said, let's take a look at Oh, this is in, well. 1 hour ago, Ukraine not invited to U.S.-Russia talks. Senator Reid calls it horrific. All right, this is MSNBC, posted 1 hour ago.
Breaking just in the last hour, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have just wrapped a joint meeting in Jerusalem. In remarks right after the meeting, Netanyahu said Israel and the United States are working in, quote, full cooperation on Gaza.
And I also thanked him for America's unequivocal backing for Israel's.
It looks like MSNBC is talking about Israel first, and then they're going to pivot to Ukraine. So let's just go through this.
See in Gaza in moving forward. I want to assure everyone who's now listening to us, President Trump and I are working in full cooperation and coordination between us.
Joining us now, Democratic Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island. He is the ranking member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, good morning.
Good morning, Senator. What do you think in full cooperation on Gaza means? Does this mean that they've signed a deal on a hotel package, or what? Or any clarification that you could be made aware of?
Well, Michael, the president has declared he wants to engage in the removal of Palestinians on the international law, so the cleansing and it's illegal. And then he wants to put the United States troops on the ground, which would be a disastrous mistake. The last time we did something like that was in Lebanon, and we lost over 200 Marines. So I think, frankly, it's not quite clear what they're up to, but there's no yet sort of coherent, internationally approved formula for creating a Palestinian state, frankly. Netanyahu rejected the two-state solution. That's still, I think, the policy in the United States, but Trump seems to say no, that it'll be one state, and that will be, I think, a tragic error in the region.
You know, Senator Reid, you have pushed back on the president's idea of putting American troops in Gaza to the point where you have co-sponsored legislation, a resolution, pardon me, that the United States will not deploy U.S. armed forces to risk United States lives to take over Gaza. What has been the conversation with your Republican colleagues on this particular issue? I know when it comes to the issue of Ukraine, there are some very clear bipartisan work happening. We saw it on camera in the Munich Security Conference this week, but on this particular question and as it relates to what happens in the fate of Gaza, I'm wondering what your colleagues are saying.
I think there's still some internal debate in the Republican caucus about what to do. I don't sense any enthusiasm for committing troops to Gaza. The real question is what can we do, both ourselves and our international community, to create a stable environment and start rebuilding Gaza? There's some attention on that, but this is primarily the president's initiative. I think he shocked everyone, including my Republican colleagues, when he's announced off the cuff that we would essentially displace all of the Palestinians. And also, I think, very ironically, we create summer resorts or Rivieras on the Mediterranean. That's outrageous. And so I think a lot of my colleagues are on the other side, are keeping their heads down on this one.
Now, I have said this about 4 or 5 different videos ago in the series in telemetry, because this is a new series called Grave Concerns. But in telemetry, near the end of the series, I mentioned that Gaza, if Trump does what he wants to do, and there is this rebuilding of Gaza, you're talking about building almost the 5 boroughs of New York in Gaza. That's what this means. Maybe not the whole amount of the 5 boroughs of New York City, but a big chunk of it. That means Manhattan, you know, Brooklyn, Queens, parts of the Bronx. That's the square footage that we're talking about here. All right, so people get an idea of what's the size of what we're really talking about with this development. And by having it developed, then that means that there's going to be economic vibrance in that area. all right, it probably could be paid for by the oil and gas that's offshore. But that may not be the only way to pay for it. It could be also be paid by MDS. Now, or the private, or maybe even the private sector. All right. But there's a bigger thing happening here, because when the harmonic happens as we approach, if we approach the Messianic age in our lifetime, there's going to be a harmonic, there's going to be a sound, and there will be a great calling. And the Jewish people are going to be called literally by the sound to come back to Israel, because this is the beginnings of the needing to be purified with the red heifer. Now, the red heifer hasn't been slaughtered, hasn't been burnt up, so I don't know why. Maybe it has, and they just don't want to say it. But something's weird about the red heifer not being slaughtered and burnt on the altar. I don't understand why that is. The way my reading of Paraduma, the red heifer, and the laws of the red heifer through Maimonides is that it needs to be on Mount Olive. Well, that's just outside Jerusalem, so everyone would see it. Now, maybe there's scholars that say it doesn't have to be on Mount Olive, but my strict interpretation of reading Paraduma is that. Now, I could be wrong, but the thing is that why isn't the red heifer sacrificed? So that's one big question I have. I don't know, assuming that it hasn't been slaughtered and sacrificed and burnt. You need those ashes to purify the body of all the Jews to reboot the temple and to purify all the vessels, and so there's a big purification process that has to happen at the vessel level to reboot the machine, to reboot the temple, but also purify all the Jews in the world. So there's a harmonic that will be happening, and true Jews, not half Jews, not fake Jews, but real Jews, they're going to hear this harmonic, and they're going to be brought back in. They're going to be told to come to Israel. Now, you're talking millions of people around the world. I don't know what that number is. I suspect it's around 12 million, but it could be more, maybe a little less, 8 to 12 million. Mass migration in a very short amount of time. Where do you think that they're going to be housed? What's the size of New York? About 8 million. Wake up. You got these stupid asses that don't even know what the hell the Bible is saying.
From Israel and Gaza to what is happening Russia and Ukraine. We have new reporting today. Ukraine has not been involved in the peace talks occurring in Saudi Arabia. An aide close to President Zelensky says that as of Saturday evening, so that's last night, Ukraine has still not been invited to the peace talks between the US and Russia and Saudi Arabia. The aide adds, it is dangerous to speak with enemies before you speak with allies. Ukraine's position remains unchanged. We need to have a joint position of Ukraine, the US, and Europe before any negotiations with Putin. Your response, sir?
So now I'm pivoting, all right, to Ukraine. All right. Now, you can see Zelensky, he's feeling the pressure. He's feeling he's being pushed out with the negotiations. So now he's going, help me, Euro whiners, help me, help me, help me. We can't do any negotiations till we're a unified body against Putin. Help me, help me. You know what's probably going to happen? There'll be some sort of peace agreement between Trump, Zelensky, and Putin. And I wouldn't be surprised that Zelensky is pushed out and he's no longer the president of Ukraine, and or he's assassinated.
Absolutely correct. And the statements made at the Munich Security Conference first by Secretary Hexet were completely inappropriate. You don't give away your leverage March in a negotiation before you start the negotiation. And the President Vice President Vance's statements too were highly, I think, provocative to our European allies and very comforting to Vladimir Putin. And this is not a surprise to me. This is exactly what the president did with respect to Afghanistan. He negotiated directly with the Taliban in Doha. He did not involve the Afghan government. And then he's prepared an agreement that in 1 year we'd leave all our troops, so all the contracts and everything else. Essentially, he sent the signal to Taliban that you want and just give us room to get out of town. And that is essentially, I think, what he's doing now. And it's going to be horrific for the Ukrainian people. Putin will not only seize more territory, he'll take revenge. And then our European allies are now left sort of alone in many respects. What the president doesn't recognize is one of our greatest strengths from World War II on has been our allies everywhere. And
the reason why we aligned ourselves the way we did in World War II was the restructuring, because most of the world was in rubble. And then not only that, we had the Cold War. So we were building a whole alliance with Western powers against Stalin at the time. All right. But why do we keep on thinking that we have to continue on with this Cold War mentality? I mean, that is so like 1950. This is 2025.
Spurning our allies and embracing our adversaries. It's ridiculous, but it's also tragic.
Senator, to that very point, I'd like to let you hear a little bit of Donald Trump and his views of Vladimir Putin on peace.
When Putin says that he really wants peace, do you believe him?
Yeah, I do. I believe he wants peace. I'd love to have him back. I think it was a mistake to throw him out. Look, it's not a question of liking Russia or not liking Russia. It was the
G8. Is that something our allies want, to have Putin back in the G8?
I don't think so. I think the president forgot that Putin conducted an unprovoked attack upon a country. Indeed.
This is where the Biden and the Obama administration went wrong with Russia. Having Russia independent of Putin, because Putin will eventually not be the president of Russia, right? Either he's going to die or he'll be pushed out or whatever. Okay? Not aligning economically with Russia is a bad move for Western powers. Having some sort of economic ties with Russia will continue on the process of democratizing Russia. But not only that, it allows us to have an ally when we go to war with the CCP. We need multiple front war against China. And it makes a lot of sense that the United States and Russia work together with a two-front war against China. Now, if we can ally with India, and it looks like Trump is doing that with Modi, then not only do you have a two-front war, you have a three-front war. And you squeeze the CCP. And that is the best military strategy against the CCP. If they think that they're going to flash pan the Taiwan. Now, does it make sense to do that? To create this economic conduit between the United States, the Western powers and Russia, and bring them into the fold, into the G8, into the G20, and stop this horse shit with BRICS? These people like him are literally goading the world to go to World War III.
other allies have guaranteed the sovereignty of the Ukraine after they gave up their nuclear weapons, and we've certainly forgotten that. Putin has. So we're in a situation now where the president is essentially telling our allies, go, you're on your own, and telling Putin, take what you want. That is disruptive and not just disruptive, it's very, very dangerous.
To say the least dangerous. Senator, if we could take a turn. We've been talking this morning a lot about the National Institutes of Health and what this administration is doing via DOGE to root out waste and fraud, but it just ends up firing people who are doing life-saving work and career civil servants. You have actually joined with researchers in the medical community in Rhode Island to oppose major cuts to life-saving NIH research. Just wondering your thoughts on that we are hearing now this morning that the uncertainty within NIH, so many people have been fired, funding has been cut, and we just had someone who represents the union here, Dr. Matt Brown, who said that we asked him after the show was over, we said, do you think more cuts are coming? He said, we don't know what is happening, but they are bracing.
Well, this is a disastrous policy.
There was a lot of nefarious activities going on with NIH. Don't you remember about, that whole arc of development with Barrick starting all the way to 2001 in April, going all the way through 2019, and then USAID money flowing to Wuhan? Fuck, shut down NIH or seriously investigate what's going on. Not only that, a lot of research now, you have to question because you have gatekeepers at these prestigious journals that don't want to question dogma. So if you have a new theory or if you have new evidence that disproves prior dogma, the gatekeepers don't want to publish it or rarely publish it. That's one issue. Another issue is you have a lot of researchers, especially in clinical data, that play around with the p-value. So it's called p-value harvesting. And what that basically means is that they change the numbers in their data set. They either take stuff out to make their study seem more statistically significant. It's called fraud. And then in addition, you ever notice, where someone is getting up on stage and they say they have 300 publications or 500 publications? It's called salami slicing. All right. They do a study, they have a big data set, and they cut the same study 5 different ways. So they publish 5 different papers, even though it's one study. It gets even worse. Sometimes they issue the exact same paper, just change the title and have it be published in another journal. And they get an additional count for a publication. You got to question people when they have hundreds of publications, because most likely they've been doing, and they're significant, quote, significant studies. They've been doing p-value harvesting and salami slicing. So they're not being honest. And then some people that just have notoriety, all right, they get on a paper and they may write 1 sentence. And so you have these people that are on a paper that did 1 graph or wrote 1 sentence or did the conclusion section, and there's like 5 different people on the paper. But the actual amount of contribution to the paper is not that much. But yet they published a paper. That's how they get hundreds of publications. And that's all promoted by the NIH because the funding's coming in through grants. Oh, here's tons of money. Just throw as many Ph.D.s and throw as many, investigators onto the project and, publish a paper. Meanwhile, in the background, you got a fellow that's doing pea harvesting so they can, be able to prove their point and manipulate the data. That's the real world of academia. Because they're so stressed out. These people that are in these situations, they're so stressed out because it's publish or perish. Publish or perish. Independent on if you're pea harvesting and salami slicing. And not only that, you got to publish, so don't push the dogma. Don't push against the dogma. Don't be a true thinker. Because if you're a true thinker, you may not get through the gate process for publication. That's the real world of publication now. It's not about truth. It's about, do you fit into a category? Now, some scientific journals are more risque, all right? And pushing the envelope, but others are not. Nature is definitely not one. Nature published a paper that Fauci edited to push the zoonosis theory of what happened in the 2020 crisis. A very prestigious journal, Nature, did that. And we're supposed to believe that what the NIH is funding is kosher? Guess what? It's not.
It is not only undercutting our scientific efforts, it's also damaging and will damage our economy. Here in Rhode Island, we are investing in not only federal dollars, but state dollars and private dollars in becoming.
You're worried about the economy being harmed by cutting NIH funding. Let's get this straight here. NIH gave money to do gain-of-function research in the United States and in Wuhan through conduits and other labs around the world. But let's just focus on the United States and Wuhan for a second here. A big crisis happened in 2020, and literally the middle class and the poor lost over $3 trillion of wealth because of the crisis. $3 trillion of wealth, and was transferred to the rich through equity asset elevation through the stock market, because the market crashed and then people bought and it mean reverted and it climbed. So there was a $3 trillion of wealth. What happened was that the Federal Reserve printed money, and that money flowed into equities, and the middle class wealth went down, and the rich got richer by a tune of $3 trillion. That's what happened. That's just the financial side of this. Look at all the deaths, look at all the injury, and you're saying that the NIH was beneficial to the economy? The data says otherwise. We're still living through the inflation pulse that came from the 2020 crisis, and all that hot money that was printed, and all the stupid funding that was coming from Congress. It was all inflationary. And that's another way that they took away from your wealth, where meanwhile you're still paying exorbitant amounts for groceries, exorbitant amounts for housing, exorbitant amounts for heating and cooling. Meanwhile, Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, Bill Gates got richer. Like, they really need to get richer. I'm sure they can buy filet mignon every day for the rest of their life.
Medical research with our hospitals and our medical school, and this undercuts that. And just sort of an example of how the cost is going to impact the United States. One of the major areas we're researching here around is dementia. As this population ages, and it's aging, more and more dementia takes place. That's a very expensive disease. It's expensive not so much in the treatments, but in the custodial care for people. And we're going to spend billions and billions of dollars of doing that unless we find cures or ways to delay the onset of disease. So this is not just,
My father is dying in a nursing home slowly by ischemic dementia. So I know the subject matter pretty well. All right. On many levels, on the scientific level, the medical level, and just a personal level of, seeing a family member slowly dying from dementia. All right. More research needs to be had in the subject matter. But I'm telling you, a big part of this is lifestyle. We're exposed to chemicals that are affecting our brain. We're exposed to technologies that are slowly reducing our IQs and slowly producing this negative plasticity where we're literally depressing the neural connections and weakening the neural connections. Cab drivers in London have larger areas of their hippocampus because they have to remember where to go. But now we have Google Maps. So everyone's hippocampus is now shrinking. When you don't use your memory, your hippocampus starts to shrink, just like you have dementia. So these technologies that we're playing around with, where Sergey and Page are making tons of money, or Zuckerberg, or even Elon, these technologies are literally making you stupid. That's a part of early onset of dementia. The gut biome, like I mentioned earlier, causes early onset of dementia. There are some problems with gene expression. There's microplastics and nanoplastics accumulating in the brain with a high correlation of early onset of dementia. A big part of it is our unhealthy environment. The stuff we eat, the stuff we drink, the municipality water. I noticed in 1 year, the particulate matter in New York City water has doubled than from a year before. Doubled. How? Why? We need more research in this subject matter, for sure. But it doesn't need to be an NIH grant because this is such a big problem. Big Pharma wants to find that molecule or that solution to treat it. There is an incentive. They don't need NIH grants. Who needs the NIH grant is the medical schools and the large institutions because that funds their research. So they can publish papers and do p-value harvesting and salami slicing and publish papers because they're worried about perishing. But they need the money from the NIH.
And they can pay their own way, et cetera. This goes right to our economy. In fact, Michael was talking before about cutting waste. What they don't do is they don't do a cost-benefit analysis. They don't look at the cost and the benefits, seeing the benefits far outweigh the cost. They just are looking for money for one reason, a tax cut. They want to fund a huge tax cut for the wealth.
It's a tax cut across the board. That means everyone's going to have more money. Now, unfortunately, the uber wealthy are going to get a big dollar amount reduction. That's true. But if you restructure government where it's more efficient, then you can come back in and say, okay, these are programs that should be funded. But cut first and do a full landscape assessment of all programs that should be funded. And then start going, okay, how much should we allocate? So do the cut first, bring down the taxes, and then do a real deep dive assessment on things that should have additional funding through an economy that is growing better because more money is in the pockets of individuals. That's looking at it holistically. He's saying, oh, we need to do the cost benefit analysis. Well, that's a partial holistic approach, but the better holistic approach is restructure, make it more efficient, have more money in our pockets. Our economy grows. With the economy growing, we have more goods and services, we have more manufacturing, more economic clustering. Our GDP grows. The tax revenues start to go up because of the growing economy by not changing the rate. And then with that growing economy, you go back in and say, now we're going to fund strategically NIH for these types of programs. And that's a more efficient way. And it is growing the economy so it can fund good research. That's the better solution. This is a solution that Elon wants to do. It's not just about tax cuts. It's about first making it more efficient, cut out the dead weight, grow the economy with more money in people's pockets, and then start strategically funding certain programs or certain agencies with more funding. With the growing receipts, they're coming from a growing economy and not changing the tax rate. That is a much better solution than this horse shit that he's saying. But all of these fucking liberals, they just want to tax you until you die. And then they want to tax you even when you're dead. And then they want to take your death certificate, hide it, and put you on the voter roll so you vote Democrat. So you're paying taxes while you're dead and you're voted for a Democrat while you're just rolling in the grave because you're so pissed off.
And they will disparage all other Americans. So, you know, when they go after Medicaid, it's going to be poor people in nursing homes and, frankly, middle class, middle income people in nursing homes. And they don't care.
That's so bullshit. That's bullshit. Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security end user is not going to be hurt unless there's fraud. Unless there's fraud. But everyone would agree to get rid of the fraud. Okay, there are people that are gaming the system and there's fraud that's going on. But the ones that really need it, when you say that you're going to cut the budget for Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security, that doesn't mean the end user gets less money. They may get actually more money with a cut budget. Because what you're doing is you're getting rid of the bloated administrative staff and the wasteful spending and getting rid of the corruption, and getting rid of the fraud. I'm for making sure our elderly and our veterans are taken care of. And that means that the end user needs to get more money from these programs. But it also means that the people that are employed in these programs that are processing, staff needs to be cut, maybe by half, maybe by more. And upgrade with technologies where it makes the agency more efficient. So the end user gets more money. Because I've seen too many people that are old that have to decide to eat or take their medication. They can't have both. And that is a world that is wrong. Wrong. Just dead wrong.
They're going to take the money and run. And that is just very difficult to
yeah, well, you know, let's use emotional fallacy and say cutting budget for Social Security means the end user gets less money. No one has said that. No one has said that. They're going after the administrative state because that's where the corruption and the wasteful spending is. But the administration state, like I said, is going to kick and scream saying, don't do that, you can't do that, blah, 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 orange man bad. You're going to demonize little granny. Now, Trump is playing chicken here, and he's not swerving. The national security state is dangerous, and they are way, bloated. And if you take power away from the national security state, they want to kill you. So, or orchestrate events like 9/11 so they get more power, so they get more money from Congress. Just imagine if Trump says, we're going to cut the national security's budget in half, the national security state's budget in half, and we're going to lay off a lot of people. Don't you think that the national security state will get all pissed off and then go, well, wait a minute, the smoky rooms, dark rooms, and they start planning a 9/11-like event, let's say in 2025 or 2026, right before the midterm elections, and during budget season, and they go, well, this event takes place, and Congress has hearings, and the national security said, well, look at what Trump did. He cut our budgets, and he laid off so many people, and a terrorist attack happened. It's all his fault. We need more money. We need more officers. We need more agents, blah, blah, blah. And then we have another boatload of money being printed by the Federal Reserve to give it to the national security state again, because they orchestrated another 9/11 event. That is the dangerous chicken game that's happening right now.
Not going to accept. We're going to push back. People have to know that this is really about where working Americans have a chance to succeed. We'll be able to defeat inflation. We'll be able to.
Working Americans? Which working Americans are we trying to protect? Senator or whoever he is. Is it the administrative state? In these government bureaucrats? Or is it we the people that are paying for all this crap? Which working American are you talking about? It seems to me that he's more focused on protecting that administrative state. He doesn't care about the manufacturing worker that's losing their jobs overseas because of unfair trade practices. He doesn't seem to be caring too much about middle America and us being overtaxed. He doesn't seem to care about how much you have to pay for eggs and milk because of gain of function research that's going on that shouldn't be going on. But let's keep on funding the NIH to keep on doing gain of function research and blow up the world, because that's good for the economy. These people are idiots. We are literally run by retards. Retards.
Right now, he's ignoring all those issues, and he's the peril of the country.
Senator Jack Reed, thank you for speaking so plainly about the issues this morning and for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Another failed attempt to project logic by MSNBC. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen peptides. It has an amino acid profile that's pretty extensive that I'm showing on the screen here. You can see the label on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. This is a very high quality product. It helps to improve your joints, your bones, your skin, your hair, your nails, your muscles. Take it every day. You get a big scooper here. This is about 1 month's supply. Mix it with soft foods like hummus or yogurt. That's how I take it. You can you can mix it with milk or with filtered water or a smoothie. It's up to you how you want to take it, but take it every day, once a day, and do some resistance training. And what will happen is you're going to improve your joints. You're going to get more muscle, and you're going to slowly build more bone density. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. Also, taking collagen will improve your skin, like I said, and it works really well if you take a look at my anti-aging skincare beginner's box and advanced box. where you are improving the topical layer of your skin, the dermal layer of your skin, and the basal layer of your skin. So take a look at those two anti-aging boxes, or just get the collagen separately. It's up to you. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. Again, the anti-aging boxes and the longevity boxes have a built-in discount when you compare it to buying those products that are in the box individually. Please take Max 14 or Max 35 every day. It's the first pillar of a 4-pillar core health protocol that I have. The first pillar is Max 35 and Max 14 to improve your immune system. C60 is the second pillar, soak up free radicals. The third pillar is turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans to bring down chronic inflammation. And the fourth pillar is to boost up your energy levels and metabolism with Boomer Boost. When you do that as the core and you add stuff to it, boom, you got a great protocol for your health. So Max 14 or Max 35 is the first pillar of the core protocol. Take it every day, take a teaspoon a day. That's what I do. Swish it in your mouth, gargle about 20 seconds or so, and then swallow. What happens is you're improving the epithelial lining in your oral cavity and in your oral pharynx, and maintaining that mucosal barrier. That means, for the layman, you're improving your immune system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Max 14 and or the Max 35. Take it every day. If you're not feeling well during the cold season, take a tablespoon or 2 a day. Do the same thing. Swish it in your mouth, gargle 20 seconds or so, and then swallow. Good night formula, really important. Why? You need 3 cycles of REM sleep a night and deep sleep. So your body through your night, you go into different cycles of sleep, all right? You need about 3 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep for you to consolidate memory, to detoxify your central nervous system, and to be well rested. With good sleep regularly, you're going to slow down the aging process and your immune system is going to get better. Why? Dr. Paul Cottrell, how does sleep deprivation hurt your immune system? Thank you for asking. Because you'll have higher cortisol levels. And when you have higher cortisol levels because you're not sleeping well and you're building up toxins, guess what? Your immune system goes down. So you ever notice, people that sleep regularly, have good sleep, they seem to age slower? You ever notice that they seem to have more energy? Well, I just told you why. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take the Good Night formula every day. It has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, passion flower, and many other supplements or ingredients in here and vitamins in here. Take a look at the label. It's a very high quality product. Take it every day so you have good sleep. Sleep is a major part of a holistic approach to slowing down the aging process, improve your endocrine system, and improve your immune system and your other organ systems. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. And lastly, I want to talk about the stack. I talked about that third pillar in the core, about bringing down chronic inflammation. Turmeric and ashwagandha is perfect for that, all right? And this is a dual purpose stack, all right? It's going to help your immune system and your cardiovascular system. Ashwagandha root brings down cortisol levels and helps you to control blood glucose levels. Turmeric is an antioxidant, so it's going to soak up free radicals and reduce the oxidative LDL. And turmeric also brings down inflammation. So you stack these together and you're improving your immune system and reducing the chances of building up in plaque. It stacks really well with lignans. So if you want to supercharge the stack and improve your cardiovascular health and your immune system, take lignans. It's a powder. Again, mix it with soft foods or with filtered water or a smoothie. It's up to you. But there's a small scooper. Take 1 scooper a day, and this will help with your immune system and your endocrine system. It's going to bring down inflammation. It's going to soak up free radicals. And you'll also notice that if you work out, your recovery time is quicker. So guess what? Take this as a stack. It's a great way to improve your immune system and bring down chronic inflammation. And it improves your cardiovascular health. Why? Because you're reducing inflammation, you're reducing blood glucose levels, you're reducing cortisol levels. And so what happens is you're reducing the signal of that chronic inflammation in the vascular system where it leads to plaque buildup. And then because of lignans and turmeric being an antioxidant, it's soaking up free radicals. And by soaking up free radicals, you're reducing the chances of oxidized LDL. And oxidized LDL is the beginnings of plaque formation, because that oxidized LDL is eaten by macrophages, and the macrophages turn into foam cells, and then voila, you have plaque. So you're stopping that signal. So I just told you how to not have cardiovascular disease. Now you can listen to me or not listen to me, but the bottom line is it works. All right. All right. 2 hours ago, Fox News released with Hugh Hewitt. Dems lost it. So let's play what they had just published.
The host of Hugh Hewitt Show, Hugh Hewitt joins us now. We've seen so much in your career. This has got to be one of the most unique pairings ever.
It is, Brian. I got to compliment you and your producers on that opening montage. When you go back and do it again, I just add Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis from Die Hard with a Vengeance. I don't like it because you're going to get me killed. But buddy movies, it's the perfect way to open this up. If we did history, though, we'd show Harry Hopkins being FDR's emissary to Churchill in 1940 to figure out whether or not Britain can survive. We would use Ben Bradley and John Kennedy. These are predicates for a president using, and we call them special government employees now, but just somebody that they like and get along with. But the president remains the president. Donald Trump is in charge. Those Democrats melting down, they really have lost it. And that's another good montage. If I hear that song one more time, my head's going to split open, because that is the worst song I've ever heard sung. I think it's a great partnership. It's working very well, as Musk said in the Oval. They're going to make some mistakes. That they're going fast. They're going to break some things. They're going to have to glue them back together. I'm all for it, Brian. All for it, because what they found already, the USAID stuff, and they're just getting started. Wait till they get to the Department of Education. Wait till they get to transportation, aside from the FCC and
Don't get me started with Department of Education. The reason why tuition is skyrocketed to the moon is because of the Department of Education and their issuing of loans. Because what has happened is that the schools, all schools, private, public, nonprofit, profit, doesn't matter. They all raised their tuition because it was easier for the students to get the loan, and they just offsetted that ease and just raised the cost because they knew they were able to get it from the student. The moment you stop those loans, then what's going to happen is it's going to put pressure on these schools to restructure and bring down the tuition. What has happened is these schools, to get those higher tuition and to get students to go to their school, they're building up their campuses and making new facilities and all this stuff. Do they really need this? If you go to a campus, especially something that's been rebuilt recently, you'll notice that they're big buildings. Maybe the buildings look nice through an architectural design point of view, but are they really efficient in its usage with the students? I'm not talking about efficiency with energy, because a lot of them, meet the green, green energy or, lower energy certification, LEED, I think it's called. All right. Many of them meet the LEED requirements. And aesthetically pleasing buildings, but are they really efficient for the student body? For many of these buildings, and it's not. And these schools either get a big endowment or big gift from a donor, or it's a partial gift from a donor, and they have to take a mortgage to build the building, and they have to raise the tuition. And this is exactly what happened with Cooper Union in New York. Liberal arts school that was 100% paid for all students, and they decided to build a new building. They took a loan. They played the market invested money into a hedge fund. Lehman happened, it blew up, and they had serious funding issues. And then they had to start charging their students tuition because of bad management of the founders' money. So the growth of these big universities, the growth and the restructuring and the rebuilding of these campuses is all predicated in mostly on this foundation by the Department of Education, where they will fund the student no matter what the tuition is. And over time, these schools keep on raising it up more and more and more. This is at the state school level and the private school level, profit and nonprofit. They keep on raising it up and up and up and up. So if you cut that, tuitions are going to start to go down, and the schools are going to realize that they have to sell their properties because they're not efficient. We've built up a system that's just not efficient. There's an awful lot of liberal arts schools that are literally going to go out of business. These smaller liberal arts schools that have been around for more than 150 years, they're closing because they can't compete with these larger schools that have a larger endowment or larger alumni that has wealth to build up these campuses. But the point is that these campuses are building up cost structures that are unsustainable. They need to trim down. All the schools, including Harvard, including Yale, including Princeton, all of them, they have to trim down. Because what has happened is that there's a false pulse because of the government funding the tuition being a guarantor. And what happens is that the schools just keep on raising the tuitions up and up and up, and more of the population is getting a college education, but potentially going into a field that's non-productive, so they can't get a job, but they have all this debt. That's just at the college level. Now let's look at the failure at the primary school level. You have students that are in primary school that can't read, write, and do arithmetic. Meanwhile, the school wants more money. Meanwhile, the teachers want to fund their pension. They want more money. You have a failing system. Cut it. Cut it.
Get to the Department of Defense. I hope they go very carefully, but go very deep.
Absolutely. And do you worry that courts are going to stop it? I know they've already slowed it down. We'll talk about that a little bit later with Ted Cruz. But do you worry they're going to stop it?
Well, I'm not worried. I think the Constitution is very strong. The nonsense about a constitutional crisis is just that nonsense by people who don't know anything about the law. Some district courts have impeded some actions. They will all be reviewed by appellate courts. They may get up to the SCOTUS in a hurry. It depends on it. There's one overreach by a Trump appointee, by the way, where he told the president he could not recall USAID employees abroad. That just gets right into the heart of the president's foreign affairs commander-in-chief power, and I think that will be reversed in a hurry. If they've made mistakes about the dismissal of federal employees, I used to be the general counsel and deputy director of the U.S. Office of Personnel Management long ago and far away. It's hard to fire a federal employee after the 1978 Civil Service Reform Act. But if they do it wrong,
they create these acts so it's impossible to get rid of dead wood, dry rot. That's not an efficient government, nor is it an efficient economy. Meanwhile, they keep on pumping out students out of primary school that can't read, write, and do arithmetic. Then you add in all this technology that they're bombarded with, and they all have ADHD and they have all these issues with adjusting to society. They have to talk real fast, and they use it as a crutch. You know what? They all need to fucking grow up and just calm the fuck down and just be more productive and stop using ADHD as an excuse.
These will get reinstated or they'll get a buyout, whatever. It's not the end of the world. What's the end of the world is a $2 trillion deficit every year and $36 trillion in debt. We have to do this while also defending the country and making sure that the social safety net stays in place.
Yeah, right. And we have the smartest guy doing it for free with his team that has 7 successful companies. I mean, the richest man in the world. Please show me the downside. My opinion, the sleeping giant of this administration potentially could be RFK Jr. He has brought Democrats and Republicans together, especially moms, because we're going to look, it's within our food. Look what's in our vaccines, not banning vaccines. Do you agree with me on that? That when his nomination was actually confirmed this week, that he is going to be the beginning of something that could really produce something for every family?
I don't know what Hewitt's going to say. This is the first time I've seen this video, but my take on this is this. RFK Jr. is perfect to run HHS, to move the ball forward to making America healthier. And it's this holistic, I've been saying this for years. It's about a holistic approach. Preventative medicine is medicine. Preventative medicine helps prevent the society moving down the road of chronic disease. Now that means improving our water supply, that means improving our food supply, that means improving our pharmaceuticals, having proper testing, stop with the the p-value harvesting, do proper testing of inoculations with placebos, right? Have a better understanding the synergistic effects of certain inoculations when they're given together. That research hasn't been done because Big Pharma isn't told to do it. And you think they're going to do it because they just love to spend money? Of course not. You need people at the helm that say, whoa, Nelly, guess what? The free ride and the bullshit's over. He's perfect for that. Perfect for that job. Americans are unhealthy because of lifestyle. Americans are unhealthy because of the environment that we're living in. We need to fix that. Again, the 2 biggest diseases in the United States, diabetes and heart disease, and both of them in most cases are preventable.
I'm a little bit different, Brian. I will wait and see. I didn't come out against him because I don't know him, and I know that the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, is a huge part of the Trump coalition. Donald Trump is a very savvy operator when it comes to bringing together a group of people to work, as developers often do, on a multi-phase project with all sorts of different multi-uses in it, from golf courses to high-rises to residential and to commercial. So he's bringing together a team, and Robert Kennedy Jr. represents a lot to the MAHA movement. I hope he does not go too far because he does have some rather eccentric views on some issues. So I'm going to wait and see. But HHS is very big. It's got lots of guardrails in it. There are lots of professionals that he's going to bring along with him. So I'm willing to see it. I didn't oppose it because I think Tulsi Gabbard, Robert Kennedy represent part of the Trump coalition. And unlike Obama and unlike Biden, those 2 presidents went to the left when they were elected. Donald Trump's running to the center because he wants his coalition to endure. That's work of genius.
So this past week, Linda McMahon went up and had her day on trial to see if she's going to get that nomination. I'm sure she's certainly going to, but she made it clear. I would like to wind down the Department of Education. I would like to disperse it again. But yet it's counterintuitive in a way, because if you want control and you want to upgrade it, why have less power inside of it?
Thank you for asking. The premise of our government is local government is better government, not federal, not top-down government, not big nanny state, and big brother and little sister. What are the needs locally for those students, and have ways to improve the educational system so they can be productive citizens? And so this bloated out bureaucracy that's not effective. And another failure of Carter, President Carter, another failure right here. The Department of Education. Thank you very much. Another failure of Carter was how he handled Iran. Thank you very much. Another failure of Carter is our energy policy. Thank you very much.
most ideologically driven bureaucracy, right? I had Bill Benner on, former Secretary of Education this week. Bill informed me there's a $1.7 trillion student loan portfolio listed as an asset on the books of the Department of Education. That ought to be privatized, sold off as an asset, allow the Republicans to do more tax cuts. As for their Office of Civil Rights, it's upside down completely. They're not protecting civil rights, they're protecting woke. There's a lot of ideological extremism at the
$1 billion? I thought it was a trillion. I want to hear that again. I thought it was $1 trillion.
Sold off as an asset, allow the Republicans to do more tax cuts. As for their Office of Civil, right? I had Bill Benner on, former Secretary of Education this week. Bill informed me there's a $1.7 trillion student loan portfolio listed as an asset on the books of the Department of Education. That ought to be privatized, sold off as an asset, allow the Republicans to do more tax cuts. As for their Office of Civil Rights, it's upside down completely. They're not protecting civil rights, they're protecting woke. There's a lot of ideological extremism at the Department of Education. Should be just block granted out to the states, get rid of it all, and I hope Linda McMahon is successful. They can move the OCR over to the DOJ's Division of Civil Rights and get the same thing done with better people.
So, you know, it's interesting as we look at the grades, we're going to be able to find out how President Trump is doing by looking at the numbers. They don't lie. In reading for fourth graders, they're down in reading, down in math. For eighth graders too, down
I'm
eight.
going to read this chart. I mean, this is crazy. Grade 4 and grade 8. All right. And remember, when they're young, you want to catch the problem early so it doesn't get worse when they're in high school and in college. Fourth grade. Nation's report card cannot meet basic standards like reading and math. 69%, 61%, grade 8, 70%, 78% that cannot meet basic standards. This is crazy. This is the reason why there are so many people that have means to get their kid in private school, because public school sucks. Today's public school sucks. It's a miracle if that kid can get out of there, one, alive, literally, and two, where they can read, write, and do arithmetic. But 70% can't read at grade 8 level, and 78% can't do math. Now we wonder why we don't have more engineers. Now we wonder why our manufacturing base has been shipped overseas, and now we're losing that economic clustering and that innovation. Innovation is through building stuff, whatever that stuff is. But we have this is abysmal. We can't have a modern society under this horse shit. People need to wake up. And this is why there's so much crime, and inner cities are starting to go to hell. And the minorities are having problems, moving up the economic ladder because they can't afford to put their kids in private school. So they're tied to the public school system, and the kids aren't getting educated. But the Department of Education wants more money. When you have 78% of the kids that can't add 2 plus 2. This is a canary in the coal mine of a destruction of our society. I mean, if I had kids, I would never put them in public school. Never, ever, ever, ever. Because the thing is, the public school system is destroyed.
And then reading down 5. So this is terrible, and we just spend more and more money if you look at how much money we're investing. So it's not a lack of focus, it's a lack of planning and maybe learning the wrong thing. What I'm also encouraged about is the elimination of CRT, the 1619 project.
That's interesting. Another chart that they showed was Nation's report card 2019 versus 2024. All right. So for both grade 4 and grade 8, math went down 4 percentage points. Reading went down 5 percentage points for grade 4. Grade 8, 8 percentage points went down. And for reading, 5 percentage points went down. All right. That's going from 2019 to 2024. So this is data that's during the COVID years. Literally, the COVID years made our students worse off. So you have that. You have a failure of public school system pre-COVID, and then on top of it, the problem with COVID.
And maybe learning the wrong thing. But I'm also encouraged
And
about
guess what?
is
These are the people that are going to be funding your Social Security. Because the money you put in Social Security right now from your check, that's funding the people that are taking Social Security right now. That funds don't go for you. They go for the previous generation. So our generation is going to be funded by this generation that can't read, write, and do arithmetic.
the elimination of CRT, the 1619 project. How convincing can they be in Washington to convince all 50 states that they got to start loving the country again with its curriculum?
Well, Congress can help. They could certainly attach to the budget reconciliation process a requirement that any state that receives federal money provide an education choice alternative. But I'm glad you brought up the nation's report card, Brian. I didn't know you were going to do that. That's a 5-alarm fire in parents' ears. If your kid can't read by the fourth grade, they're not going to.
Hewitt, I disagree with you. It's not a 5-alarm fire. It's a nuclear blast. Fuck.
Illiterate and unable to find satisfactory work that will do them well for the long term. We ought to absolutely treat it as such. And as Bennett said to me, we ought to stop everything else and focus exclusively on reading by score and rough age cohorts until individuals can read. Because the bottom 10% in some cases.
And the big problem is the screen time. If you have a kid, trust me, because people have done the research on this. If you have a kid, keep them away from the screen. Less TV, less iPad, less iPhones, less computer. And force them to read books. Because what's happening is this younger group, they don't have the attention span to read a book from cover to cover. And they don't have the wherewithal to actually understand concepts that they're actually reading. In addition, it's better for your eyesight to read off of a book, a real book, than the screen, because of this blue light that's coming off of it actually hurts your eyes. And it also puts you into kind of like a lower state of consciousness. So you're not really fully awake when you're consuming content on a screen. And so over time, if you're on the screen all the time, and let's say for a year, your attention span is going to go down. But if you stay away from electronics and you really force yourself and your kids to read books and stay away from the damn technology, the IQ levels will start to go up. The attention spans will start to go up. The reduction of ADHD will happen. And I'm willing to bet that your kids' scores will start to improve in school. But the problem is that Tim Cook needs to make sure he stays a billionaire, and he needs you to buy those iPhones and iPads for your kid. Meanwhile, your kid's getting stupid.
Quarter of 8th graders in many places, they're illiterate.
You, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much. It's going to be an interesting 4 years, judging by the first 3 weeks. I appreciate it. All right. Now this.
Thank you, Brian.
They need to nuke the Department of Education. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the vitamin D3. This helps to absorb calcium. It's a gene expression cofactor to help your cells to express genes properly. It also helps to get rid of cells that are infected to go into apoptosis. And you stack it with K2, MK7. This is a great stack for bone health and for your cardiovascular health. How does it work for your cardiovascular health? It will help to reduce the calcium depositing around plaque. All right. Now for bone health, you want to do some resistance training. And by doing that, you're sending a growth signal to deposit bone matrix, and the vitamin K2, MK7, and the D3 together, the stack, will help with that, to deposit that bone matrix. It helps to absorb the calcium, but it also helps to send that signal and deposit into that bone matrix, right? You have osteoclasts and osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are cells that will deposit bone, and you have osteoclasts that will eat bone, eat up the bone. And so the bone minerals will go into your bloodstream. When you get older, you have more osteoclasts, not osteoblasts. So you have more bone matrix being eaten. And you have these minerals that are deposited in the bone that are in your blood serum that eventually are secreted through your kidney. So you're eventually just, over time, urinating out your bone matrix. Now, it takes about 7 years to fully recycle and remodel bone. So if you do resistance training, take the D3 and the K2, take calcium supplements, or drink milk. I take milk for my calcium. And you work out 3 days a week with resistance training, you're radically going to improve your bone health and density. But it's going to take time. You're going to see major improvements after 5 years. But start now, because you don't want that erosion to take place. You know, it's like looking at a beach, right? And you see the water erosion over the years, right? That's the same thing what happens to your bone. If you don't do a resistance training and take calcium, take the D3 so you're able to absorb the calcium and the K2, but also this helps with the depositing of the bone when you're giving the right signals to build bone matrix. And that's why you need to do resistance training. Now, another great stack with this for your cardiovascular health is to add nattokinase. Nattokinase is fibrinolytic, so it breaks up clots, and it helps with your lipid profile. It's going to bring down LDL levels and raise your HDL levels. This is a great stack for your cardiovascular health. I have a box called the Longevity Cardiovascular Health Box, and that has a bunch of supplements in there to help with cardiovascular health. Please take that. It has more supplements than just this stack, but the point here is that it is in your power to improve your cardiovascular health by proper diet, proper exercise, and proper supplementation. You can reduce new plaque, and you can slowly bring down the plaque buildup that has already happened. But it takes vigilance and it takes dedication. I've also added to my stack NAC. Why? There are a lot of anti-aging gurus out there that have been taking NAC and they've been seeing benefits. So I decided to add that to my protocol. And what happens is the NAC boosts up your glutathione levels. Glutathione is produced in your liver. And it's an antioxidant, it's a strong antioxidant, and it's another pathway to soak up free radicals. It's synergistic with C60. C60 soaks up free radicals a different way. The more free radicals that you soak up, the better your cells will perform, the better your tissues will perform, the better your organ systems will perform. That means your endocrine system is going to be better. That means your exocrine system is going to be better. That means your immune system is going to be better. When you bring down free radicals in your serum, that means you're reducing plaque formation because you're reducing oxidized LDL. So it behooves you to soak up as many free radicals as possible. But also NAC not just soaks up free radicals through the pathway of the glutathione. This helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney, especially if you take acetaminophen. And NAC helps to calm your nervous system. It reduces anxiety. And by reducing anxiety, you're going into a parasympathetic mode. That means you're going to have a lower heart rate. That means that your system will be more calm, and you're reducing the chances of elevated cortisol levels. Now, like I said, chronic elevated cortisol levels is immunosuppressive. You don't want that. You want to bring that down, calm your system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, take NAC. All right. Let's go to France 24. We haven't, wait a minute. What's going on? U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said freedom of speech is in retreat in Europe countries. I want to go to Al Jazeera about this freedom of speech comment by J.D. Vance.
And while we're at it, try to get the Ukraine war settled. I think I'm very sympathetic to the Trump administration's agenda in that area. But I think that picking cultural fights with the Europeans, while it might be satisfying for Vance and Trump and even politically useful for them in some ways at home, isn't helpful to having a friendly but more distant relationship from a defense and military perspective.
Well, what do you make of that? Will the US, do you think, aggressively reduce its forces' presence in Europe during Trump's term? What should Europe be doing now in terms of its own defense capabilities to support its support for Ukraine and the threat posed by Russia?
No, I think we definitely will see a reduction of the U.S. troops, and not just within the Trump term, but within the next 2 weeks. So that was actually what people were expecting from Vance's speech, and I think, as we just all agreed, so this was that disruptive moment he used to surprise the audience with something completely different, and distracting actually from the topics Europe should discuss. So this was, as I said, a wake-up call for the global or for the European right to raise up, but it was also a wake-up call for the Europeans, as Jessica rightly said, actually, to finally get their act together. And it was quite remarkable that the one actually who gave the best speech in terms of, okay, we need to beef up our defense spending and bring all these, so walk the talk actually, was President Zelensky. So he gave a speech actually in which everyone in this room or during the conference and all the floors actually agreed, okay, this is the kind of spirit other European leaders within the European Union should have demonstrated on stage, saying, okay, this is now the moment. So we're talking about this for 20 years and nothing has happened. So President Obama had said it in his very mildly friendly way. So President Biden has said it to the Europeans, and still nothing has happened. And all of a sudden there was this kind of urgency you could feel in the conference floor, saying, okay, so maybe now we need to really do something. And yes, and not for the sake of remaining a good relationship to the US, but actually for our own interest. Because so we don't know what Putin is out for, but at least actually, so the best way is to beef up what we are talking about for years now.
Jessica, on Wednesday, US Secretary of State Pete Hegseth poured cold water on the prospect of full liberation for Ukraine. And then we had this speech on Friday, J.D. Vance saying that US troops in Ukraine stay on the table if Russia doesn't negotiate in good faith. What are we to make of those apparently contradictory statements?
It's precisely how it seems, to keep Russia and Europe on their toes. The White House itself doesn't yet have an endgame strategy for this war. So they're testing messages, they're watching reactions, and also, as we know from the first Trump administration, President Trump himself can be quite erratic and change his mind on directions, on topics, based on more or less who was the last person in the room to give him advice. He goes with his gut sometimes. So the fact that American messaging in the past week has flip-flopped so dramatically is actually good news for Europe and should be a reminder that nothing is set in stone and that European action can still greatly influence the trajectory of the Trump administration's narratives and rhetoric. But by passively just reacting with statements, it gives Putin and the Kremlin much more opportunity to shape events. I don't think we need to read too much into the statements of this week, because everything at the end of the day will depend on what we do and not what is said. And last but not least, no matter what statements come out of the White House, they do not dictate what the Ukrainian government, military, and people will decide to do. Ukraine is a sovereign nation, a democracy, and their action in this war and how they determine to engage with Russia or maintain the fight will not be determined by a statement from the White House.
Just like Dr. Mearsheimer says, Professor Mearsheimer, it's all about power, all right? And where do you get your power? Through military and economics. I don't think that Ukraine is in a position of power. They're literally the playground of the Western powers and the playground of Russia. They don't have, where's their leverage? Where are the powers of leverage with Ukraine? There isn't. That's why Zelensky is pissing in his pants, because Trump is not willing to help him. And he's begging for the Euro whiners to come in to bail him out.
And Moscow is putting more money into its military than the whole of non-Russian Europe is spending on defense, according to the International Institute for Strategic Studies. How does Europe get past the fact that it's been unable to reach a consensus on the threat that Russia poses and what should be done about it?
Well, I would like to check that statistic. I'm not sure. Russia was, last I checked, Russia was pretty far behind non-U.S. NATO on defense spending in total. But in real terms, that is inflation adjusted actual spending, not percentage of GDP. But, the bottom line is I think that the Europeans would be more unified against the Russian threat if the Russian threat were more clear to them. And I think it's as bad as the war in Ukraine has been, I think we're seeing real limits in Russian military capability there. And as much as we hear things to the contrary, there's not a lot of evidence.
Both sides are exhausted, Russia and Ukraine. And this is the reason why Trump is giving Putin an off-ramp. But you have the intelligentsia that wants to have, they're total perma bears for the Cold War, and they just want to keep on pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing.
Is interested in some broader war, sort of trying to sweep into Western Europe, like some Napoleonic power, like Hitler or something like that. So it's, I think, clear to people who are being sober about it that the Russian threat is rather limited, and that's undermining the ability.
I would say that there is a dissertation case to spin it a different way, that the Napoleonic ambitions are actually through NATO, not through Putin.
As against
Olaf, I need a reasonably brief answer here, if you can give me one. Does Europe have the resources to protect itself without US assistance?
Nope. Yes, of course we have. So the thing is, we have a diversity of weapon systems, which is insane. So if we finally actually would agree on which country is covering which resources, we would be way more effective and impactful also. But this is now actually for the Europeans to really talk serious amongst themselves.
Okay. Jessica, is NATO facing an existential threat? Should it perhaps be looking to open its doors to new members beyond Europe and North America if the US withdraws?
Think about this. If you want to de-escalate tensions between Western powers and Russia, does it make sense to grow NATO, or does it make sense to shrink NATO, or at least stay status quo? But growing NATO isn't this is only leading to World War III if you grow NATO. That's not a signal that you want peace and prosperity and some sort of economic integration between the Western powers and Russia, which we would all benefit from, and have a two-front war or maybe a three-front war on China when it happens. But let's grow NATO. So dumb.
Towards Europe, or at least waters it down. And how should NATO do that?
NATO is definitely facing an existential crisis. I think in the near term, what will be much more likely and effective will be for sub-coalitions of NATO members to agree quickly amongst themselves what kinds of strategic concrete actions can they take together. We've already seen a nascent Nordic...
That's a good point. And that could be the prototype of the federalism of a military that's governed under the European Union and not NATO. Maybe the European whiners need to take care of their own backyard.
Baltic, Polish, British coalition start to form. They're in discussions about joint financing and setting common targets together because they understand the Russian threat very well. I think the idea of expanding internationally is definitely something that will be considered for the medium and long term. But as long as America is still a member of the alliance, any move to do so would be incredibly cumbersome. And I think first, NATO will be trying to handle with the tools that they have internally. And like I mentioned, having these sub-regional coalitions form on specific topics. But the message is clear that NATO needs to change and reform.
NATO is literally an old relic that they just keep on limping through the years. It is as irrelevant as hardtack during the Civil War.
Future.
And Jessica, when we spoke to you before the program, you said that an existential war for the future of Europe is underway right now. What did you mean by that?
Well, I disagree with our colleague in Washington about the level of threat from Russia. What's not Russian tanks rolling through Poland? It would be much more likely a combination of cyber attacks on critical infrastructure combined with targeted strikes by long-range missiles on critical European infrastructure. Russia has openly stated that they are looking to destroy the Western alliance, and in particular, to destroy the countries who joined the European Union and NATO after the end of the Cold War and escaped from Russian colonial subjugation. This desire to return to the past is not just theoretical, they are backing it up with guns and blood. And when I call that an existential threat, it's because it's precisely this. Europe at a turning point in the 21st century, we have had peace for almost 80 years now. Are we willing to put it at risk to appease a dictator and out of fear of the future? We have to find the same kind of courage that Europeans found in the 1930s and 40s. It took time to build consensus. It took time to get the Americans on board, but fascism was defeated in Europe. And we are now at a new turning point in European history where it's on us to recognize the threat and to behave with urgency and react.
And there, we must end it. Many thanks indeed to you all, Jessica Berlin, Benjamin Friedman, and Olaf Wonka. Thanks for watching. You can see the program again at any time by going to the website. That's at aljazeera.com. For further discussion, join us at our Facebook page. That's at facebook.com.
Now think about this for a
AJ
second.
Inside Story.
Think about this. Russia is exhausted from the war in Ukraine. They're importing soldiers from North Korea. That's not doing too well with the drones. Their manufacturing seems to be not as steady. There's claims that they've ramped up manufacturing, but I suspect that they're exhausted by the war. The Ukrainians are definitely exhausted by the war, and they need U.S. help. If the U.S. pulls out with the help, the war ends. Putin is like 72 years old. He's probably shows signs that there's some sort of health issue that's happening. I don't know the severity of the health issue. But do you really think that he has the wherewithal to continue on a war effort? No, he's too old for it, and the economy can't hold it. So most likely what's going to happen is you give an off-ramp, Putin eventually goes, off to the sunset, either through elections or maybe steps down, something happens. There's going to be a new president that runs Russia. And if we are smart in the Western world, and the Western allies are smart, we will integrate economically with Russia to prevent this from happening again. It'll happen again if we continue to demonize Russia. This whole Cold War mentality needs to stop, or we're going to go towards World War III. Because most likely the president that comes in after Putin is going to be younger. But it's better to economically integrate, so the cost of war and expansionism, external enlargement by Russia, is so costly economically that it's not viable. That's the solution, not expanding NATO and sending a signal that the other side needs to start to save butter, bread, and build up, armaments. But the intelligentsia, that's what they're signaling to Russia. Stupid policy.
You can join the conversation on X. I handle
the Israeli public and to the wider public in the Middle East. This complete
All right, before we go back,
alignment.
I don't know what's going on with Three Horseshoes and Knockholt. I don't know. Something's going on in England. I don't know. Oh, pub shooting. It looks like there's a pub shooting that just took place in
Of gunshot wounds. People here at the pub and surrounding areas, people that live opposite, describe hearing two loud bangs at around 7 o'clock on Friday evening. We've spoken to the landlady at this pub here, and she said she didn't want to talk on camera because her and some of her staff are still very much in shock and traumatized by what took place here. But she said she recalls hearing those two bangs as she was printing off menus, getting ready for the Valentine's Day dinner service. She said the victim, the woman in her 40s, wasn't a regular at this pub, but had been here a number of occasions before and had been here at the pub drinking that evening. She described, as I said, hearing a number of loud bangs outside and the commotion that followed, and said she's absolutely devastated by what took place at the pub that she's been running for a number of years. In terms of the police investigation, police say the woman is believed to have been known to her attacker, the suspect. And they also said that they yesterday recovered a vehicle some 17 miles away on the Dartford crossing, and also found a firearm within the vehicle. They haven't, though, found the man that they believe to be the suspect. They do say that police call handlers, received reports that that a man was on the wrong side of the barrier by the Dartford crossing, and they say they're not ruling out the possibility. So now this remains a really shocking incident for people here. They say this sort of thing simply doesn't happen here. We've seen the pub reopening this afternoon and people laying flowers in the car park just behind me, but really quite serious shock here. They say they haven't seen police activity like was here yesterday, the cordon now removed, in a number of years.
To the Middle East now, where Marco Rubio has expressed America's full support for Israel on his first visit as Secretary of State. He told Benjamin Netanyahu that he fully endorsed Israel's war aims at the Gaza Strip, saying Hamas must be eradicated. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described President Trump as the greatest friend Israel had ever had in the White House. Our international correspondent Diana Magnay reports from Jerusalem.
Late on Saturday night, and after a phone call with his Russian counterpart, the first at that level in 2 years, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio touched down in Israel. The US fighting many fires right now. But this a moment once again to signal America's unwavering support for Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu keen to stress that he and Trump were on the same page on Gaza and on all the other regional threats that Israel faces, with Iran their common thread.
We have a common strategy, and we can't always share the details of this strategy with the public, including when the gates of hell will be open, as they surely will if all our hostages are not released until the last one of them.
Related to that, the president's been very clear. Hamas cannot continue as a military or government force. And frankly, as long as it stands as a force that can govern, or as a force that can administer, or as a force that can threaten by use of violence, peace becomes impossible. They must be eliminated.
Okay, there is a video that came out by News Nation. I'm going to play it. It's only 9 minutes long. It's about top secret Area 51 veterans dying as DOD keeps them classified. So let's listen to that. But before, let me just plug a couple supplements here. Myotrol is a great supplement to build muscle and maintain muscle. It helps with the gene expression to build muscle. It also helps mitochondrial health. You need lots of ATP to maintain muscle and to produce muscle. This supplement is something that you should be taking if you're 40 years of age or older. Do some resistance training. This couples really well, this stacks really well with gladiator barley to get those strength gains and the muscle gains. It's a great stack. In addition, if you're an athlete, either younger or older, take Myotrol to get those strength gains, because again, Myotrol helps with the gene expression to build muscle and to maintain muscle. When we get older, we atrophy. You don't want that, trust me. So do some resistance training, take the Myotrol, stack it with gladiator barley, and that's a great way to gain muscle, especially if you are an athlete, younger or older, and you're looking for gains in your sport. So please go to my store, get the Myotrol, and take it every day. Get healthy. Make sure you use discount 5. It's a little secret. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. Zeolite. This helps to detoxify your body. Use it to remove heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals. Guess what? We're being sprayed by whoever. Some of it is Harvard. Some of it is from, other great agencies that we have in the government. And there's lots of trails in the air that I don't remember seeing as a kid. All right. Oh, there's geoengineering taking place in the sky right now. All right. That's not good for us. It's affecting our food supply. It's affecting the soil. It's affecting what we breathe in. In addition, there are toxins in our water, in our processed foods. Filter your water. Stop eating processed foods. The garbage that they sell at fast food is terrible for you. It affects your body. It's actually designed to trick your body to keep on eating more. So stop eating the fast food. It's bad for you. Clean your environment at home. Paints in the garage, paints in your basement, they degas and you're breathing those chemicals in. Not good for your pulmonary system, not good for your immune system, not good for your endocrine system. There are cleaning agents that may be in your closet or in your garage that you're breathing in. Now, try to use more natural ways to clean your house. But if you can't or don't want to, make sure that they're double layered in a container to reduce the degassing. That way you're not breathing it in. And then take the zeolite to soak up those heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals. Take it every day. Take 2 drops, small drops, underneath your tongue and drink filtered water. Do that every day, year round, every year. And what that's going to do is it's going to bind to those toxins and it's going to allow you to urinate it out in 6 to 8 hours. For ones that want to detox once or twice a year, do a detox protocol, then what you want to do is take about 5 drops, small drops underneath your tongue, drink the filtered water, do that every day until the bottle's done, do that once or twice a year. It's up to you, but it is better to do a daily maintenance and to clean your environment. And that way, you're getting those toxins out of your body, you're reducing your exposure in your household, and what will happen is your endocrine system is going to get better and your immune system is going to get better. A lot of people are chronically sick because they have toxins that are building up. And another great thing with zeolite is this is going to get rid of those forever chemicals. But it takes time and you got to be diligent. But it can be done. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the zeolite. Use discount 5. All right, let's go to this video from News Nation about Area 51.
Area 51 veterans chosen by the government for top secret work have something in common other than their service. They're now getting sick with serious health issues, tumors, and cancer. Decades ago, these men were hand-picked, and today they still can't talk about their missions out there in the desert. But as they get sicker, the vets tell me the Department of Defense still will not acknowledge their service on the range, keeping them classified and unable to get the critical benefits and care they need. Tonight, we are showing you the evidence of what the government may have known before sending them to the range, and the secret photographs now coming to light for the very first time.
They keep us classified to protect themselves.
A group of Air Force veterans and a DoD contractor say they've been sickened, even disfigured, after being stationed in the desert in the mid-'80s to early '90s.
But I assumed it was safe. There's chosen people there.
A position of pride becomes a bitter bite of betrayal.
Did you have any idea what you were being exposed to?
None. None of us knew.
Air Force veteran Dave Creet's son, born with a brain tumor.
It's the worst. Those are the most innocent victims.
These veterans say they served at the Nevada Test and Training Range, which encompasses the infamous Area 51, a remote spot that hosted nuclear testing both underground and atmospheric since the 1950s.
Now think about this. Now, you know how I feel about the national security state, that it needs to be like destroyed, you know, especially the agencies, you know, the intelligence agencies. But besides my predisposition on this, look at what they're doing to our veterans. Our veterans served honorably. They need care. Not spending money on stupid woke programs and on illegal immigrants. Our veterans need care. 100%. They need support. And then on top of it, they're poisoning them. Now, if they're doing that to our veterans on a base, what the hell are they doing to us? I'm telling you, you cannot trust the national security state. One iota.
No record that the men ever served in the windswept desert.
What was so top secret about this work?
It was the technology behind it. That's what we were there to make sure nobody got.
They still can't talk about most of their work on the range, but the one mission they can now disclose, guarding the F-117 Nighthawk, America's first stealth bomber.
We ended the Cold War, truly.
Oh, wow. The story begins with a reunion barbecue back in 2016 at veteran Dave Creet's Las Vegas home.
I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, steal glory from him, but the Cold War ended because we outspent the Soviet Union. That's how the Cold War ended.
Air Force buddies who hadn't seen each other in decades make a startling discovery.
So I asked the guys, we're just sitting around drinking beer. I said, you guys, I got this lump on my back. I don't know if anything else coming in.
Yeah, I had one of those. I had it removed. It was the size of a grapefruit.
6 out of the 8 vets had benign tumors called lipomas. The 7th said, I don't have any, but my son was born with one.
It just kind of confirmed it. There was an issue. Where we were, that's the one common denominator. We were all there.
Veteran Mike Nemsick has the same tumors starting around his eye, then multiple cancers.
It was to the point where I felt forsaken. I thought, my God has forsaken me.
His 4 bouts with cancer, starting at just 38 years old, have taken a toll. Throat, salivary gland, bladder, and colon.
What was your biggest fear during that period of time?
That I would die and leave a young family without a father, without a provider.
Mike says he feels responsible for the young men he selected for his team, like Bob Morton, who passed away in 2021 of lung cancer. He was 58 years old.
I selected Bob to be a part of my team, and it weighs on my mind is if I wouldn't have done that, would he still be here?
A DoD contractor who worked at the base at the same time as these vets sickened.
Yeah, they took his teeth out first because they had to scrape out a lot of cancer.
They had to scrape out a lot of cancer.
2 cancers, 80% of his tongue removed along with his vocal cords, all of his teeth. He lives on a feeding tube.
I have a feeding tube, but it works. I saw friends that A, passed away, B, paralyzed, can't walk, etc. and I'm just blessed.
And before Pop Braswell was a Harlem Globetrotter and a pro golfer, he served.
You know you're handpicked. You know you're the top of the top.
The Air Force vet now fighting thyroid cancer.
I also feel pushed aside that our government, who has chosen to use national security as their excuse to not take care take care of the people.
And and let's go back to the period of time that they were serving and look at the Department of State. Okay? The Secretary of Department of State, Haig, Schultz, and Baker. They all had a nice life. They all had a nice life. Meanwhile, these veterans are fucking dying because of what they did.
Tell News Nation their medical claims are being denied by Veterans Affairs. The work so top secret, their records are what's called data masked, as if they were never there.
It's like a kick in the gut. It's just a matter of betrayal.
After learning of the serious health conditions his Air Force brothers were suffering from, Dave did some research on the Nevada test site. Hundreds of nuclear weapons tests were conducted in the area from the 50s until the early 90s. In the 1970s, the government
There is, for the ones that are watching live and the ones that are on X Spaces, there's a documentary called Downwind that I believe you can see either on Amazon Prime, maybe there's a copy of it on YouTube, and it's talking about individuals that lived downwind from these testings that were taking place. And there was a film being made at the time, and it was one of the John Wayne films. And many of the cast and the film crew ended up getting sick. So there's a documentary about it. I believe it's called Downwind. But this is, our wonderful national security state poisoning us.
The idea of building a military installation there to house classified projects. A 1975 Department of Defense environmental report of the area acknowledges nuclear contamination, depleted uranium, beryllium, and plutonium present before the men were sent by the government to the range. But the report says, quote, discontinuing the work done would be against the national interest.
It's one thing to be ignorant, to be naive, to not know
the national interest, so we can keep on the Cold War. Now let's put it in context. This is happening in the 80s. They're having medical problems now and throughout the decades. And we are still on this hell-bent Cold War mentality from the intelligentsia that Putin's bad, Russia's bad, and that if things get really hot and heavy, we need to go to nuclear war. Meanwhile, maybe some tactical nukes go off, maybe some, ICBMs go off, and they set the world on fire. But these generals, and you have the government officials going underground in bunkers for continuity of government, and they won't give a fuck about you.
what they've understood for a long time.
Dave's discoveries led him to create the Invisible Enemy, an advocacy group where he says he's connected with more than 1,000 veterans who served at the Nevada test site. Hundreds of them report being sick.
Our government knew that that area was contaminated. So knowing that, and they willfully put us there, that's giving somebody a death sentence.
The vets are angry and confused that in 2000, Bill Clinton signed the Employees Occupational Illness Compensation Program Act. It provided medical care and compensation for the Department of Energy workers who were sickened from nuclear exposure at that exact same site in the desert, but not veterans or DoD contractors. News Nation reached out to the Department of Defense for answers. The DoD said they will not comment and referred us to the Air Force. The Air Force said, quote, "We don't have any information available from that time frame." We asked our News Nation medical contributor about the vet's medical conditions. He believes a common exposure is probable.
When you look at the statistics, cancer in this group of subjects is about a 6% type of an occurrence, right? Invasive cancers. It's pretty straightforward that there was a common exposure
because the numbers of cancers and the number of illnesses and the number of deaths in this cohort is much, much higher than you'd expect, given just normal circumstances.
Along with the worries of their own health concerns, many of the vets carry something else: guilt. They fear they've exposed their families through contamination brought home on their uniforms, routinely covered in dust from the test site.
We were in the dirt all the time. And I can recall the times where, when we perspire, that our uniforms would turn kind of a yellowish orange.
You got a barbed wire fence.
See, if you were exposed, God forbid, to radiation, the first thing you need to do is shave your head and scrub your skin and get rid of your clothing and try to get clothing that is not radiated. And then, but you have to leave the area first, the area of exposure, leave. Then you have to shave your head. You have all your hair, all of it, even your eyebrows and your eyelashes, all of it. And then, and you know, all the hair on your body. And then you have to get rid of your clothing. You got to scrub your skin. And then, but the radiation's still in your body, but you're reducing that exposure, right? You're reducing that. And then you put on new clothing that's not radiated. And then, even though the radiation's inside your body, you're not contaminating other things. That's why you have to scrub the skin and get a few of those layers of your skin off. You have about 7 layers of skin in most areas of your body. Some of it's 5, but most of your skin has 7 layers. So you scrub it down and take 3 or 3 layers off, and then you have to shape all of your hair. And then, even though you are still a little bit radioactive, you've reduced the chances of contaminating other things when you're touching them. All right, a lot of people don't think about these things. Unfortunately, I do. But the thing is that people don't think about this. So they're exposed daily, and then they come home, and they got that dust on their uniform that's radioactive, their hair, right? And then, or even fillings in your teeth will absorb that radiation and still pulse. So they're exposing their family every day and over time. And let's say you have a newborn or you have a young child and they're growing quickly. So they have a lot of cell division. And with that radiation can cause cellular damage, DNA damage that divides. And eventually, over time, there is tumors that develop because there is this mutation that took place because of the radiation exposure.
Go to the other side of this barbed wire fence because it's contaminated. Barbed wire stops a lot of dust in the wind, doesn't it?
Exposure, they fear, may have led to miscarriages, autoimmune conditions, and other diseases in their loved ones.
My mom and dad.
Yeah, I love these photos.
Thank you.
Jennifer Page believes she lost her dad and mom far too early after both worked for years on the range.
I sat at her bedside every day. Just hold your hand. She apologized, crying. I'm sorry I ever worked there. I know that that's what's killing me.
Her mother's dying act to work to declassify images she said would be important in one day unearthing the truth.
And I asked her, I said, Mom, why did you save some documents? And she said, because I always knew I was exposed. She was so young when she started there.
And this is the kind of proof that you're left with, that she actually did show up to that job every single day.
Right.
These veterans tell News Nation these decades later, they are gearing up for a new fight, this time for government transparency.
We did something important. We did good work. We changed things. We don't deserve being ignored by saying we don't exist.
And News Nation has been searching for answers after the DoD had no comment and the Air Force said they don't have information available for that time frame. We went to the VA, and the VA told us there is no presumption of exposure for these veterans who served.
So stonewalling. The DoD is stonewalling. Meanwhile, veterans die. This is what I mean. We need to take care of our veterans, especially the ones that have been exposed to bullshit that they shouldn't have been exposed to.
Treated on a case-by-case basis to prove that their sickness is related to their service. The vets say this is difficult, if not impossible, when their data remains masked. And time is of the essence. Dave Crete just added the 446th name to their memorial list a couple days ago. He says the average age is 65 years old. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find new.
Well, I mean, it's a major problem. You know, this is a runaway national security state. They don't care if they poison you or our veterans. They just don't care because they can make money and they have power. And this is the reason why it's so important to truncate the national security state, hold them accountable, and the ones that have done these nefarious things and harm people, they need to be prosecuted and executed. But they'll hide behind national security secrets. It's so secret that Mueller from X-Files can't find them. All right, this is DW. This is DW with China celebrates Trump talks with Russia. But before I go to China's comments about Trump with talks with Russia, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the resveratrol. Resveratrol is something that I've been taking for decades. It stacks really well with C60, NAD+, ubiquinol. And it's also an antioxidant, so it's going to soak up free radicals. It's going to help to improve the health of the mitochondria, so you're going to get more ATP, really important. And it gets rid of cells that need to go into apoptosis. When you get older, you get lots of cells that just stop dividing and just sit there and collect garbage. And as you get older and you go into your geriatric years, you have lots of cells that have lipofuscin in it. And lipofuscin is a protein. It's just like garbage, all right, that the cell can't get rid of. But as it builds up, the cell doesn't perform as well. So you want to get rid of those. Resveratrol helps with that. And if you're getting rid of cells in tissues that have adult stem cells, you're repopulating with newer cells. That means that your cells are going to perform better and your tissue is going to perform better. Again, this stacks really well with C60. So to get the most benefits out of resveratrol, stack it with something like C60, strong antioxidant, NAD+, or ubiquinol. Now, ubiquinol is the highest bioavailable form of CoQ10 that you can get. Most people that take CoQ10, they're getting the low version, the low bioavailability. That's a tongue twister. Now, ubiquinol is an antioxidant. It'll soak up free radicals. It'll boost up your energy levels, improve your mitochondrial health because you need lots of ATP to slow down the aging process. Trust me on this. And ubiquinol protects neurons. This is the main reason why you take ubiquinol. When you're 40 years of age, you need to start to protect your neurons because you don't want gait issues. You don't want neurological issues, neurodegeneration. You don't want that, trust me. It's really sad to watch your father slowly die in a nursing home because he has dementia. All right? Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the ubiquinol. This is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10 that you can buy. So go to my store and get it. Use discount 5. Again, it stacks really well with resveratrol. NAD+, boosts up energy levels. NAD+ also repairs DNA damage. When we get older, we build up DNA damage and it overloads our natural repair mechanism. This will help to repair the DNA damage. Not just cellular DNA, but also mitochondrial DNA. That's really important. So please go to my store and get the NAD+. This also protects neurons. It stacks well with ubiquinol and resveratrol and C60. And since I'm talking about C60, you can get it in a 2-ounce, a 4-ounce, or an 8-ounce configuration. It has to be in a lipid because C60 molecule is lipid soluble. You can get it in avocado or MCT coconut oil or extra virgin olive oil. Take a teaspoon a day. It's better that you take it on an empty stomach for best absorption. And if you're working out, take it before your workout. And what you'll notice is that you're recovering quicker. Why? Because it's soaking up the free radicals that you're building up during your workout. And it's also improving your energy levels. C60 will soak up those free radicals, boost up the health of your mitochondria, so you'll have more ATP. And when you soak up those free radicals, you're improving cellular processes. You're reducing the stress in the cell. And when you're reducing the stress in many cells within tissue, your tissues are going to perform better. And then your organs are going to perform better. And your glands are going to perform better. And guess what? Your immune system performs better. Your endocrine system performs better and improves your neurons. Why? Dr. Paul Cottrell, why does it improve your neurons? Because your neurons have lots of mitochondria. It needs lots of ATP. And if you have unhealthy mitochondria in your neurons, you have neurons that are dying. To stop that, you need to soak up those free radicals and boost up the health of the mitochondria. That's why it's important to take C60 and take NAD+. What did I say about NAD+? It helps to repair DNA damage, including mitochondrial DNA. So C60, what happens is that you're improving that mitochondrial health. You're boosting up the ATP in your neurons. You're able to produce neurotransmitters. You're allowed, your neurotransmitters are released from your presynaptic neurons, and you start to have positive neuroplasticity, and you're reducing neurodegeneration. It's really simple, but you got to do it every day. Take a teaspoon a day. A teaspoon a day. Take it every day. And what you're going to notice is huge benefits, and you're going to slow down the aging process, and you're going to improve your tissues. And what's going to happen is that your body is healing. This is the strongest antioxidant that you can buy. You can't buy anything stronger. Just like the ubiquinol. When I say you can't buy anything more bioavailable than what you can get on my store. These two right here is a great stack. There's no other antioxidant on the planet that is better than C60. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take a teaspoon a day. It's part of the second pillar of a 4-pillar protocol, what I call the core, that will improve your health. And you take this regularly, and you'll notice at about 3 months into it, maybe 6 months into it, your eyesight also improves. All right. Let's go to, make sure you use discount 5 to get $5 off. Don't tell anybody. It's a big secret. Let's go to China celebrates Trump talks with Russia. This is DW.
Former member of the Chinese military. He's now an analyst at Tsinghua University. He's a regular at the Munich Security Conference. DrPaul, thanks for speaking to DW. We've seen what's been going on these last few days in Munich. The Trump administration is pushing a new idea of bringing about peace in Ukraine. Donald Trump wants talks with Vladimir Putin. Does the PRC, does China welcome this? Do you see Trump potentially as a peacemaker?
I think any ideas about the peace in Ukraine is welcome in China. In fact, Donald Trump himself has asked China to help. This is interesting for me to observe as a Chinese, because he previously talked about how to resolve this issue within 24 hours. Of course, that is a kind of rhetoric during election. But the fact that he asked China to help really demonstrates that China might have a role in the war in Ukraine. I believe China's role, first of all, is in joining other major powers in providing kind of a collective security guarantee to Ukraine and even to Russia. Why? Because this kind of a collective security guarantee is often talked about by President Zelensky, and is also deep in the memory of all Ukrainians when Ukraine decided to relinquish nuclear weapons in 1990s. So this is what they remember. So yes, we don't know how long the war will last, except that the war will last for a while, but no war will last forever. So there's definitely will be a time when people will discuss how to have a ceasefire. Then the question, as raised by Ukrainians from time to time, is who is going to guarantee this ceasefire? So I think at this time, China can join other major powers in providing this kind of a collective security guarantee. The second possible assistance from China is that if people have so decided, I mean, the warring countries have decided to have peacekeeping operations, yeah, then I believe China and countries like China, India might be the best troop contributing countries in that for Europeans to do this, as proposed by Polish Prime Minister and proposed by French President, would not be realistic in that Russia definitely would take it as another way of a NATO presence in Ukraine. The third possible assistance is the post-war reconstruction. China's capability in infrastructure is next to none, so I don't need to elaborate on that. I think this is just self-evident. China can just do it more quickly and do it more efficiently at a lower cost.
You mentioned NATO. The Trump administration has sort of indicated, although there's some confusion about this, but indicated that it might take the idea of Ukraine joining NATO eventually off the table. Do you think that's a good thing to remove that? Because China's generally been pretty critical of NATO expansion.
We in China really consider that this war has something to do with NATO expansion, because yes, people talking about the war, talking about this kind of invasion by Russia.
With less NATO expansion and bringing Russia integrated economically with the Western powers and standing down this perma-bear bullshit that we've been having with the Cold War, we'll be able to have a two-front war against China. So China, this is, I mean, if he's being honest, they should realize that NATO expansion is actually good for China, not bad for China.
Against Ukraine, but the people forgot that actually starting from Mikhail Gorbachev down to Boris Yeltsin, down to President Putin, that means from Soviet time to Russia today, Soviet and Russian leaders have been warning about this kind of expansion. Yeah, Russia, yes, is concerned with sphere of influence. Sphere of influence basically is a dirty word. It cannot be put on the table. But if Russia would like to fight for safeguarding its sphere of influence, then there is a sphere of influence. We cannot change Russia's mentality, but this is reality, what happened in the war. So I believe NATO really has a lot to do with this war. Then about the future of NATO. The question is, with the Western democracy going down, would NATO become really stronger? Probably we will say that the membership of Finland and Sweden may be approved of NATO's growing strength. I don't think so. I used to say that NATO is a zombie that is still walking. Why? Because this kind of military alliance, all military alliances live on threat. They're just like leeches sucking blood. So they have to find enemies.
Yes, but isn't it true that the threat is Russia? I mean, Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine has the right to make its own choices. Why does Russia have the right to decide what Ukraine wants to do?
You see, but even before the war, I'm not just trying to defend Russia, but it's true that even before this war, NATO has taken Russia as a threat. Because after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the future of NATO is not that certain. But for NATO to survive, they have to find a kind of threat. And who can be the threat? In the old days, it is Soviet Union, and nowadays, of course, it is Russia. So I believe that this kind of military alliance actually would not strengthen even the Western democracy. On the contrary, it actually invites the war. So the fundamental question about security in Europe is that NATO has to coexist with Russia, like it or not, because Russia cannot be wished away. So the security of Europe is essentially how they can coexist. People have to think about that. You just cannot look at the fact, a few simple events.
So let's fast forward to now. So that's part of the history, certainly the Chinese view of it. This conference has been dominated, really, the discussions around these halls by conversations about this speech by J.D. Vance, the US Vice President, in which he criticized European democracy, particularly German democracy. Many see this as an opportunity for China to improve relations with Europe, which is reeling from this criticism. Do you see that opportunity taking shape?
I think definitely Europe will think about what Vance said and what they are going to do next. In fact, according to Financial Times, this kind of inching together between China and the EU is already happening, because this is what I read from Peter Rothman's opinion, in which we quoted a European official saying, believe me, this is already happening. So I think this conference will tell how Europeans would actually become disappointed with J.D. Vance's speech, because even as a Chinese, I was surprised. I thought because people's concern here is primarily Ukraine, therefore he will talk a lot about Ukraine. And then because the United States is in so-called strategic competition with China, therefore he will talk about the US-China competition. But he has not talked about all this at all. Instead, he's talking about something that surprised Europeans and angered them. So this is interesting.
So is it feel like a gift to the Chinese delegate?
I think this is not what we have created, but as a result, I think the Europeans will feel that they have to strike a balance, because this is what is already happening. Because even von der Leyen talked about having new agreement with China. So even before this conference, so the European leaders have said something, and it's always in China's interest to have good relationship with Europe. Because for China, this war actually is somewhat unfair for China, in that China is not involved in this war, China is not informed about this war, but because of this war, China's relationship with European capitals have become sour, and this is not in our interest.
But of course, European capitals, the reason that the relations have been soured is that European
capitals... Let me just plug the toothpaste. Please go to my store, bud-studio-reykjavik.com. Get this structural nano toothpaste. It whitens your teeth, freshens your breath, reduces inflammation at the gum line, improves the gum line, and neutralizes pathogens, reduces plaque. When you have good oral hygiene, you're reducing the chances of cardiovascular disease and valvular disease. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get this very high quality toothpaste. Get a few tubes for your household. Use it every day. It's a very high quality toothpaste. It has no fluoride in it, because fluoride makes you stupid. And please help support my work and improve your oral hygiene. Make sure you use discount 5 for all orders. Also get the structural nano silver gels. I have it in 2 ways, 2 types. You can have the quick dispenser or the tube form. Get it for your household. Have some of it at work, have some of it at home, right when you need it. It helps to heal cuts, abrasions, minor burns. You can use it as a skincare. You can use it as an aftershave. And if people are sick around you, put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your nose, around your ears. Lightly coat your nostrils. It stays active for 5.5 hours. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Be prepared. You never know when you need it. Get the structural nano silver gels. And again, you can use it every day as a skincare.
Very frustrated by the economic and diplomatic backing that the Chinese have been providing for Russia. But I just want to touch on another thing relating to this new administration. Donald Trump's been talking about wanting to take over Greenland, talking about Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States. This seems to reflect a kind of, some people call it a neo-imperialism, or at least an idea that, wanting to add territory to the United States. What's your take on that?
Well, actually, this
it's a good idea, because why should we spend our money through unfair trade trade deals between the United States and Canada, we might as well just buy Canada. Secondly, it's a strategic military endeavor for the Golden Dome that will be developed. And Denmark would have a better economy. Not Denmark, Greenland. Denmark isn't making Greenland an economically vibrant area. The United States would, because it has lots of money.
Surprised me, as it surprised everybody. Nobody has anticipated that he would be talking about this kind of gains here and there. So it is really surprising. What I'm thinking actually is not what he's going to next. I don't know, but I believe he will continue to surprise people. What I'm thinking is at the end of his second term, Americans' image probably will go down further. Yeah, because if all people concluded that the United States does not want to shoulder any international responsibility, and apart from that, they want to grab land here and there. So what is the moral high ground of the United States?
I mean, some point to that and worry that if Trump is sending these signals, it might suggest that he wouldn't mind, for instance, if China made moves to take control of Taiwan. From a Chinese point of view, do you think that is some sort of encouragement that Trump might not stand in the way of, as you would see it, of the reunification of Taiwan with the People's Republic of China?
Well, people certainly put a lot of reference to China's intention on Taiwan, be it war Ukraine or be it the remarks of Donald Trump. But I believe the Chinese government has been consistent to insist that we still would wish to have a peaceful reunification. So we only would use non-peaceful means in three conditions that are well documented in China's anti-secession law. So I believe Trump's remarks would not really have anything to do with China. And how could we resolve this billion-dollar question about maintaining peace in Taiwan Strait? My personal answer is very simple. We have to let China believe that a peaceful reunification is still possible, because one of the last conditions for China to use non-peaceful means is that when China concludes that all possibilities for peaceful reunification are exhausted. So for the rest of the world, it's extremely important to assure China that there are still opportunities for peaceful reunification. So war across the strait is not inevitable.
Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, has been saying that one of the motivations for the US to pull back within Europe is that it needs to reassign forces to the Asia Pacific to face what he describes as the threat from China. What's your perspective on that?
I don't worry about that at all, because just imagine the United States could refocus on Indo-Pacific. So who can help the United States? Because the Biden administration has placed unprecedented, importance to allies, right? So Trump said America first, but for Biden, probably it's allies first. But in a war, in a hypothetical war with China, who can really help the United States? Japan is on top of the list, but according to the public opinion poll, there are just about 11% of people who support a direct confrontation with China. And then it goes down to Australia. Australia, yes, would buy 8 nuclear power submarines from the United States and Britain, but the current Australian government has made it quite clear that they would not be involved in conflict in Taiwan Strait. And then come to South Korea. South Korea would worry more about Korean Peninsula, and on that they definitely need support from Chinese government. And then the Philippines. The Philippines has provided 9 military bases that are just on the first chain of violence. That would have a tremendous military value for the United States. But even the Filipinos are not stupid, because they have laid down conditions for the United States to use these bases. They just cannot store weapons there. They couldn't just launch attacks from there. So until this moment, still this is the policy. So no one is stupid. I don't believe that in a war, between China and the US in the Western Pacific. It is a sure thing that the United States can win. Actually, according to American think tanks, in most of the war games, the United States has actually lost to China.
So, I mean, one of the questions the Americans are asking themselves is, why is China building up its nuclear arsenal so rapidly? The fear is that it might be to serve as a backstop for the kind of war that could potentially emerge between the two superpowers at some point in the future. Why is China expanding its nuclear forces so fast?
Now think about that.
And
Think about that. The United States sent FDI money to build plants and do transfer of technology and know-how and funded companies. And the CCP took that money and built up their military. And our war games are saying that we can't win a war with China now because you wanted to buy cheap goods from Walmart. The Americans just sold themselves down the river to the CCP. That's what just happened.
Chinese be open to suggestions from Donald Trump, which he's been floating as well, that he would like to talk with the Chinese and with Vladimir Putin about arms control?
First of all, China is not really building its nuclear arsenal that fast because 90% of the nuclear arsenal around the world still belong to two countries, so Russia and the United States.
It's still far behind, but it is still rapidly accelerating.
Yeah, but China do have good reasons, to increase its nuclear arsenals. Why? Because first of all, you should modernize your weaponry and equipment, as it happened to all kinds of weapons. So it does not mean that you can always do the maintenance work. I will give you an example. How do I feel personally about the war in Ukraine? Why NATO would not send any soldiers to fight against the Russians? I think that Russia's nuclear deterrence has really played a critical role. Then I have to compare Russia with China. The United States doesn't seem to care that much be involved in a direct conflict with China as it would worry in a direct conflict with Russia. Why is that? Isn't it just because Russia has more nuclear weapons? China has more aircraft carriers than Russia. China's military is bigger than Russian military. And China's military budget is 3 times bigger than the Russian military. So why the United States seems to be less operating China? So I ask myself this question. Is it because that China has just a nuclear arsenal that is less than 1/10 of that of the United States? If that is the case, what we need is what? We need a political decision. Yeah, because China has a strong industry. China has a technical know-how, and as has been demonstrated in our ICBM launch, just several months ago, that our missiles are quite all right. So the only question for us is to increase the number or not. And some Americans actually have talked about using nuclear weapons against the Chinese in a conflict in Taiwan Strait. That is really, really alarming. And why would they say that? They say that because they feel that they actually have lost that advantage in a conventional warfare with China in the Taiwan Strait. So they are just advocating using nuclear weapons against China.
So, DrPaul, we're going to have to end it there, but this is a conversation that I would love to continue with you because I think nuclear arms control is definitely going to be one of the hottest issues this year and heading into next year. But for now, from Munich, DrPaul, thank you very much for speaking to DW.
Thank you.
You know what's happening? World War III brought to you by Walmart. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. Boomer Boost is the 4th pillar of the 4-pillar protocol, what I call the core. This helps to boost up your energy levels and boosts up your metabolism. It has 68 nutrients. Take a look at the label on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's pretty extensive. It also helps with cardiovascular health, helps with brain health, helps with your muscles. And again, it boosts up your energy levels and your metabolism. Really important. This is like a superfood. You can replace your breakfast or your lunch by taking this. You take 1 scoop a day, 1 big scoop a day, and you mix it with soft foods or a smoothie or filtered water. Some people mix it with milk. It's up to you and how you want to take it. But take it once a day for breakfast or for lunch, and you're going to lose weight and you're going to have more energy. And after the 3rd day of taking this, you're going to notice you're going to sleep better. You're going to have more energy. If you work out, you're going to recover quicker. You just got these, you'll just feel like you just have more energy and you're a little bit more younger. You have more vitality. That happens after the 3rd day of taking this, all right? And you're going to get compound benefits by taking it every day. This container is about 1 month's supply for 1 person. And you take once a day, and you can take it also with the gladiator barley or the heirloom barley for better results. The heirloom barley you can take by itself, but it's a protein. It's a high density protein. It's a very nutrient dense protein. You can't buy this barley, let's say, at Whole Foods, because the whole food barley is degraded. The nutrients are degraded. This is an heirloom barley, so it's going to be higher density protein. My recommendation is take a scoop of this. Some people take a full scoop, all right? But my recommendation is a half a scoop. But if you're an athlete, then I would say a full scoop, all right? Mix it together with the Boomer Boost, you get the best results. Now, what does the barley do? The heirloom barley focuses on the detoxification and the inflammation and soaks up free radicals with superoxide dismutase. And it's a protein, a high density protein. You mix it with the Boomer Boost. You can take it separately and just put it in, filtered water or soft foods or whatever, and take it once a day as your breakfast or your lunch. But it's better if you take it with the Boomer Boost. All right. Now, if you want to get strength gains, all right, you get all the benefits from the heirloom barley, the detoxification, the reduction of inflammation, and the soaking up of free radicals through superoxide dismutase, but you'll get strength gains. Again, this is a protein, high density barley, but it's more focused on strength gains. So if you're working out and you're doing resistance training, you're going to gain muscle quicker. You're going to get stronger for your sport. All right. It's great for athletes to take as a protein supplement. This couples really well with Myotrol because Myotrol helps with the gene expression to build muscle. This is the nutrients to make the muscle. The Myotrol helps with the gene expression to build muscle, and you're working out to send the positive signals to build muscle. Now, also, when you do this, the stack, again, have it for your breakfast or your lunch. And what you're going to notice is that you're going to lose weight, and you're going to be controlling your A1C levels. You're going to be controlling your blood glucose levels. Now, you can control your blood glucose levels by taking the heirloom barley and the Boomer Boost, but you get more benefit from it because you're gaining strength through working out and gaining muscle to help control insulin resistance. All right. A lot of people, when they're overweight, they get insulin resistance and you start having problems with your A1C levels. This is a very strong way to control your A1C levels and reduce diabetes or developing diabetes. And you're getting the nutrients to boost up your energy levels and to improve your metabolism. Again, this is a super meal. You use it for breakfast or for lunch. So you replace your normal breakfast or your lunch with the Boomer Boost and the barley, and you mix it with some sort of base, some sort of food. I mix it with hummus. All right. You can mix it with yogurt. You can mix it with filtered water. You can make a smoothie. Some people mix it with milk. It's up to you, but take it every day what you're going to notice is you're going to control your blood glucose levels. You're going to be losing weight. You're going to get more energy. A lot of people, when they start losing weight, they get sluggish after a few days. You won't have that problem. And you're going to sleep better. You're going to actually have better sleep because you have the nutrients and just your body's just functioning way at a higher, it's just revving at a higher level. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Boomer Boost, get the Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley. You can get them separately and take them separately. That's up to you. Or take them together and you get more benefits. All right. Especially if you want to gain strength, build muscle mass. This combo right here is great. This combo with Myotrol would be great for athletes to gain strength. Get healthy. This is a great way to do it. And again, the Boomer Boost is one of the pillars of my 4-pillar protocol. Now, I've created a longevity box that's called Longevity Boost Box. And you get the Boomer Boost and your choice of Gladiator barley or heirloom barley at a discount. If you buy longevity boxes or anti-aging boxes, they're designed to be, they have a built-in discount when you compare it to individual products that are sold on my store. And you can add discount 5, all caps, discount the number 5, and you get $5 off on top of that. I want to get these very high quality products in your hand. Why? Because it works. If you stack it like I'm telling you to stack it, if you look at this whole process of getting healthy holistically, proper diet, proper exercise, that's resistance training and cardiovascular, proper supplementation, stretching, balancing exercises to activate your cerebellum, learning new things, reading, writing, talking to real people, having some sort of mindfulness or spirituality, proper sleep. And what's going to happen is that holistic approach is going to slowly move you into health. All right. Again, chronic diseases, most of chronic diseases in the United States are self-induced. They're lifestyle. And if you change your lifestyle and provide the nutrients your body needs, your body heals and tissues perform better. And that means your organs perform better. That means your immune system performs better. That means your endocrine system performs better. That means you think better. A lot of positive things happen. So please go to my store, pay attention to the way I stack this thing. Now, I take a lot of supplements. All right. And I have a holistic approach on health. Some people can't afford all of them. I understand that. I get that. I understand. That's why I've created all these different ways to stack. If you're not taking them all, like I do, you're on a budget, I still want to get these great products into your hands. So take a look at the anti-aging boxes. Take a look at the longevity boxes. Listen to how I'm stacking this. So you can customize a way to get healthy based on your budget. Now, keep in mind that the anti-aging boxes and the longevity boxes have a built-in discount compared to buying the products individually. And you can apply discount 5 on top of it. So I've done everything I can to tell you how to stack these things. Now, throughout this whole transmission, I've told you different ways to stack the different supplements to target certain systems. And again, the core, max 35 to improve your immune system, C60 to soak up free radicals, turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans to bring down chronic inflammation. And the 4th pillar of the core, taking Boomer Boost every day, taking these things every day. And with the Boomer Boost, you're going to improve your metabolism and boost up your energy levels. That core is a great way to get healthy. But there's other ways to stack these products based on your affordability. But just pay attention. It's a holistic approach. And I just spent over 3 hours talking in great detail probably the most comprehensive way to slow down aging, to have longevity and vitality than anyone on the internet. Thank you for listening. I'll be doing another transmission, maybe tonight, maybe. The Asian market opens up, and sometimes I like covering the Asian market too, not just the US market. So thank you for listening. The ones on X Spaces, thank you for listening. I greatly appreciate it. And the ones that have been watching the live stream on my website or on YouTube, thank you very much. Have a nice day. Hopefully I do another transmission tonight. Stay tuned.